The time has come, boys. Some are calling it Judgment Day. I'm calling it a celebration day. 664.
Like
will we close above $7, guys? Make sure to bang a vote in that post. Will we be green? Will we be red after the earnings call? But I've got my two boys here with me. I've got GoatGains and I've got Stock. Dylan, guys, how are we getting on today? Big day.
Doing well. I know it was like the quick pause. I'm like, go take it first. But I was gonna say I'm gonna look down for just a second because as we always do, we're gonna try to catch what Archer does, and it looks like in 703 AX did a flight today. Had some interesting kind of takeoff flight pattern, probably still a CTOL flight, but I'm gonna look that down or write it down and share it out to the X community, and yeah, then we'll kick it off with the earnings. But yeah, go with you.
I'm loving this. Neo Power says no better place than to be with the Hustle Brothers.
Oh my God.
Appreciate you, Neo.
Yes, sir.
Guys, do you know what I'm going to do? Anyone that's already here, smash that like button pretty early on. We're going to do a giveaway. You just have to smash the like button, smash the subscribe, and yeah, you'll be in with a chance for the giveaway. But Goat, how are we feeling? Are the nerves shaking yet, or are you feeling calm?
Yeah. That I don't get nervous for stuff until like 5 minutes right before. So when I start getting jittery, that's when Adam's about to start speaking. I just have that fifth sense somehow. But right now I'm doing good.
I like that.
I had a good day overall in the market as far as macro goes. Very happy. Very happy for Archer. It seems like is coming out of that Marianas Trench of 480, which we called the bottom on that one. Not to brag, but kind of to brag. But yeah, it feels really good, and as long as we can keep this momentum, I think we have no problems.
Well, I've hit my first ever 30x today. Rocket Lab hit 120. So
congratulations.
I am over the moon.
Nice.
But no, we're switching it to Archer. Archer. Look, I think we were having a bit of fun last night. I think Goat done it the night before. I done it last night. Poking fun, see if we could get a reaction from X, saying that we're going to absolutely smash earnings, just to see what people are saying. Some people took the bait, hook, line, and sinker, and started arguing with us straight away. But
yeah,
it is what it is. I genuinely do think it's going to be a positive earnings call. But again, look. Don't run before you can walk. I don't think I think it's going to be pretty similar to Joby's, actually. I think there's not going to be much hidden news. But then at the same time, Archer could have a bit of hidden news hidden there, because we can say Joby has been very transparent over the past quarter, where Archer seems to have dialed down their PR again. And normally when Archer dial down their PR, they normally have something to pull out of the bag. So I don't want to get your hopes up. Again, I'm going to say, like I say before every earnings call, if you have bought Archer already, or if you're thinking of selling Archer, don't let the earnings call sway you. Don't be overexposing yourself if you're buying or selling now, trying to trade earnings. You can look one way and say Joby pumped up 20% after, and then you can look another way and say we've seen earnings calls where we dropped 10%. So
very true.
It is all it is.
One thing about trading earnings that I will say, it's very risky. If you did it, I hope you the best of luck. But I traded all my earnings like 2 months ago when I bought all my shares. Just because if it goes up, I'm happy because I'm making money off my shares. But I got assigned on some contracts last Friday, so I have some cash. So if we go down, I win either way. So that's the position I like to be in. But you do your strategy, and I hope it works out for you.
Guys, let us know in the comments what you're actually doing. Have you bought, you selling, or you holding? I know a lot of people are waiting for a pump just to get out of the stock. Guys, I never understand that, They get left holding the bag, They hold the bag through all the hard times, and then once we get out of the hard times, they want to sell at a wash, and next thing, the stock goes flying up. So
that is the truth.
I don't want to sway anyone, but I think if you've experienced all this pain, be there for the good times. Like myself with Rocket Lab, I've seen it tank many times, but I've also seen it absolutely steam through everything.
I mean, guys, think about, after the last earnings call that we heard, the Joby one. And again, we don't know what we're going to wake up to tomorrow. Could be 20% down, could be 20% up, could be flat. But then you walked away after hours and you were just like, man, I don't know about the earnings call. And just happened to hit like that 7:30 p.m. sell all shares. And I didn't think anything necessarily was going to drive a 20% swing up in Joby after that call last time. But the market's the market. And that's what it did. So yeah, just kind of in line with you, where I think on these earnings calls, kind of taking that lane of the position that's been set, let it ride, and look for dip opportunities. But if it explodes past certain dollar cost averages or looks too expensive to want to buy another share, maybe enjoy it and then see if we start consolidating there, because that's going to be my big thing is consolidation. So consolidation. Let's find these prices, these not price targets, but basically, again, let's find these ranges for these stocks where they can sit in, and we know through good macro, bad macro, we kind of get to see where our stocks are sitting. But it's an exciting day. Ready for this call, and super glad to be here with you guys in the chat.
Guys, jump in, make sure to smash that like button. We have listened to you at the Joby earnings. You said that ads were getting in the way of the earnings call. So I've decided today, no ads if we hit 150 likes. We get up on 2,500 through these Archer Aviation streams. Last one was 2,500. So 150 likes is not hard. However, I can turn on ads halfway through this, and I will, because the three of us are not getting paid. So we may as well recoup something if we don't get the likes for it. So do smash that like button as we get into it. Matan, big shout out. My guy Tyson Freeze says hoping for green, but playing options on earnings is risky. While Saddle reckons he has some new trust in a few minutes. 19 more miles and beat it breaks 140k. Looking forward to hearing about their temporary approval to fly in the UAE. Bought 12 option contracts. Keen, well done, my guy.
Nice.
Want to hear more about the Anduril partnership? That's an interesting one. I did at the previous earnings call, but I actually think it'll be pretty quiet again. I think I've kind of accepted that we will not hear with any of these companies anything to do with these military contracts until the dotted line is signed. They seem to be pretty tight on confidentiality in these, so I wouldn't be too disappointed if I don't hear anything about Anduril. I wouldn't mind hearing about defensive opportunities. I think Joe Ben hitting it pretty nicely during the Joby earnings about the gap in the market there for these hybrid VTOLs to be entering the defensive aircraft space. So yeah, it'd be nice to hear it, but I wouldn't bank on hearing anything about the Anduril partnership. Go, what are you most looking forward to in this earnings call?
My number one thing that I'm looking for in this earnings call is to make sure that we still have a pretty decent sized cash balance. Last time we had $2 billion in cash. I would like to see that be, somewhere around 1.8, maybe 1.6 billion. We're going to go down because I don't think they've diluted shares at all since then. Actually, I know they haven't. But you also don't want to see like 1 billion, because that means we're in cash at a rate of $1 billion per quarter, and which I don't think that's going to happen. But I just like to see an update on where we are cash wise. Be closest to 2 billion as possible.
That's the thing. We just need to keep an eye on that cash burn, right? Dilution, I don't think will occur until we're back well over that $8. But again, look, we're going to need heavy amounts of dilution as we start going into manufacturing ramp up. I do expect, just like Joby did, a big dilution event at some stage prior to certification. That doesn't mean it's going to happen this quarter. Doesn't mean it's going to happen next quarter. But I am expecting that. However, again, they have a different business model, and we'll see.
And if I could jump in on real quick on that too, Liam, because again, the more I look into, we talk about the Joby dilution and such. They got them the 1.8 billion, and so I believe it was 1.3 million. Excuse me, 1.3 billion dollars of warrants that Delta actually exercised on them. So again, that's something I think to take into considerations, as we do know that there's some warrants out there for Archer, but again, warrants are usually sitting at the $11.50 price range. So there are some companies who've been able to exercise warrants when their stock has gotten up into the $17 to $18 ranges and had that be basically like a non-dilutive event for the shareholders themselves. So, also to keep an eye on the what's and whys when we have these kind of warrant cash-ins from these company partners. So again, deep diving into it, trying to learn that, the MOUs within inside of these partnerships, some of them are safety contingent. So there may be some safety standards in which these eVTOLs do have to meet prior to these actual sales of aircraft going through. So it may not just be the FAA certification alone. So, I think, again, as all these strategic partnerships do take place, whether we're going to learn more about them on the earnings calls and the guidance from the CEOs and the C-suites. Also, Benjamin Lyon, I'd expect to probably hear from him. I wouldn't be surprised if Tom or Adam kind of tap him in on a more technical type of question regarding the build out of the aircrafts. But yeah, it's kind of always interesting to see if that cash can get them over the line, but then also looking at what do we still want them to procure, assemble. For me, I think listening to the CapEx and the spend on the Georgia factory facility, is something for me where it's like, are we going to go ahead and already just go ahead and add on that extra square footage now, be ready to go for 28, or are we jumping the gun a little bit too early in that sense where do we not need to spend the money in 26 if that production ramp isn't going to come from 28 to 30? So it'll be interesting to see kind of how they weigh those out as well.
I need to give a big shout out to just me, because this is something Goat started. If you're holding a significant amount of shares, you get a shout out, and just me is holding 20,000 Archer shares. So big shout out, Mike.
Very nice.
None of you says, let's go.
I thought Liam was like, I just need to give a quick shout out to just me real quick. I thought we were about to hear about how good Rocket Lab did today. I was like, yeah. We're gonna be up there with you too. No, but the official just me, big shout out, man. That's an awesome share count. Congrats, man.
Matty Gersh says, I'd like to hear about future plans in the airport outside LA and possible collaboration with major airlines. Matty actually hit on something pretty nice there. So we know there's a little bit of, I don't know, a bit of tension or something between United CEO and the whole thought of eVTOLs. It seems. I don't know how official it is, but it seems to be that way. And are we talking to any more airlines? How is it developing with the likes of United? What are your thoughts on the major airlines adopting the technology?
I think it's one of those things that's going to come in time. And I think it really has to be like, what benefit does it really have to the airline? So if it's from terminal to terminal, I mean, you really got to think, do you want to bring in a $5 million aircraft when they do have certain shuttle buses that can take passengers from terminal to terminal? So again, it is kind of figuring out that like last kind of mile of the trip. We did kind of learn a little bit on Joby's shareholder letter that if you do place these vertiports in basically certain sections across the state, you can kind of turn in your kind of local operational travel into a little bit more of that outbound regional travel. Now you might have some charging stops along the way, but that could be something exciting that would kind of get your aircraft to be able to go from, like we're saying, Salinas to Hawthorne, where maybe you could have a quick jump, get a charge, and then you're off again until you may need another battery supply, recharge or such. But I do find it odd where you have United hosting events at SFO. And so to me, and again, it's where I always want to go back and check, but it's been said to me that it is United hosting these events at SFO. So it would be a little bit different if Archer was hosting United in that sense, because again, it's like Archer bringing the partner in to showcase off what they have. But outside of the CEO's comments, it has seemed like United as a whole company has kind of leaned in with multiple events with Archer. So yeah, let's get these MOUs tied up and get some firm orders.
And then to add to that, when the drama, whatever it was, all happened, Literally the same exact day, you see the CEO of United Airlines and Archer Aviation's midnight. So I think that's, either it was a sly comment or it was overblown significantly. I'm not too worried about it. We still got the partnership. We're still rolling. Let's get it.
Nice.
I need to give a shout out to Wild Saddle. Beta just hit 140,000.
That is awesome. Beta is awesome too.
Nice.
Big shout out, my guy.
Nice.
Neo Power says, I'm collecting shares of this company for the mid to long term, 3 to 5 years. Oh, do you know what? I actually proper shot hard on X yesterday during all them arguments. I forget who it was said that this is a long term investment, and there was a bit of bickering going back and over. And I said, it feels like you're in two camps in this eVTOL space. You're either a long term investor or you've just started investing during COVID. And that's what it really feels like. There's no patience whatsoever on people that are bearish on Archer. And I just wish they put the same, questions about the companies they're actually investing in. So the heat they're giving, and Archer should do this and Archer should do that, they didn't give that same energy when we were doing the Joby Aviation earnings. So
sure,
guys, just don't listen to any of these bears of muck. Make your own decisions. None of it has 1,001 shares. There's a video of their airport terminal looking swanky. Rad Hardtech says, I want to hear about Mothra and defense.
I hope we can.
We're gonna hope. Yeah, we're gonna hope so.
I want to hear every detail, but we'll just listen to what they give us.
And for me, I think the key lean in is, again, let's hear how far along maybe Tom can speak on this hybridized midnight project or on the defense project. Because again, we'll know when the program of record comes. That's going to be something that Anduril touts on their own. That's going to be a contract where you'll see Anduril's been awarded X billion of dollars, by Air Force, Navy, military, any sort of military branch that happens to come across and give them that check from the budget. But really, it's, again, what is that cadence and that ability to provide that aircraft over to Anduril, which, again, backdoors into that major question of, how many of these eVTOLs are we going to have, and how do we splice them up between UAE, EIPP, TIA for credit testing, and then also making sure that we can deliver on those defense projects as well. So yeah, but hey, if they bring out Mantra, let's do it. I'd love to see it.
Tyson Free says he's now up to 425 shares of Ernest & Bond, just buying more. Nice. Big shot on my guy. Look, if Archer don't hit $100 in the next 10, 20 years, you're looking at 42.5 grand there, my guy. So don't worry too much. Just keep accumulating as and when. Don't overexpose yourself. And do you know what? This thing can move quick. As
that is true.
We know we've gone across the industry. Look at Palantir alone. These stocks can move quick when good news starts happening. Speaking about Palantir, I want to hear about the air traffic control. We really need to hear about the update around the air traffic control system. How are we placed for actually? See, this is a hard one now because it feels like it's in the hands of Palantir and ASI. And for both Joby and Archer, it's like they're the wingmen to the project. I truly believe it's out of Joby and Archer's hands. It's only that they'll be helping along the way with it. But again, I want to hear more about the whole ATC system. See if Adam has any information. But look, we're looking down the elephant in the room as well. I just want to say this before closing bell, because I know some people are hoping for a transition, a secret transition that has taken place. I think across the board here, we all agree no transition has taken place unless they've managed to do it behind closed doors at rapid speed. What are we thinking? Timeline.
I can confirm that they have not transitioned. They just They just posted a video of N703AX and N704 and just talking about how they have made so much progress over this quarter, and there's no footage of N704AX flying, which is not a big deal. Well, flying VTOL or a transition flight, just doing hover tests, which is what we know to be true already. Doesn't bother me a bit, guys. I'm not here for the transition to be tomorrow or last week, or I don't care. Like I've said 1,000 times, it's not building birdhouses. If it was building birdhouses, we would have been done 2 years ago. This is aviation, the most high-risk industry, and when you're talking about transporting passengers, you need to take your time. So no worries here. N704AX will do a transition flight. Not this earnings call, though. It may happen next earnings. Probably will happen next earnings, but we'll see.
You know, I think it's crazy how, like, if you are inside that Archer culture, it's like the more you are inundated into the Archer culture, it's like I feel like the worry of the transition can kind of go away a little bit. You know, again, for me, it's something that I know for the use case of this being a true eVTOL machine, that transition flight is very, very important, and we do need to see that technology shown out with the pilot on board. But again, you know, it's mirroring a lot of what 302AX did. We are seeing that basically there's not a lot of MRO being done on 703AX when it's taking its CTOL flights. And then again, just big shout out to both Miles Rogers, who I believe was doing some of the VTOL kind of initial yaws and test flights, but Jeff Greenwood, who we know was the very first one to do the CTOL flight in 703AX. And I believe Goat may have been referencing one of the videos that Jeff was speaking on as well. So just from us, from the community, I'm gonna give a big shout out to Jeff G, because this man is literally putting his life up in the air. And you know, with an experimental aircraft, one that I feel like is going to be positive and will be able to hold its hover and be for transition. But again, this man is literally going up and trying to prove out technology that is going to change the landscape of aviation going forward. So thank you, Jeff Greenwood.
That video you're referring to, is that the one that's just been posted?
Yeah, just been posted within the last like 2 minutes.
Oh yeah. Guys, this is the video that Goat is referring to, highlights of the most expansive quarter for our flight test program of piloted VTOL and CTOL flights across our expanded fleet on the near daily basis and often multiple times a day. So this is what we're looking at here. We've no confirmation of a transition taking place there, but look, I want it to be next quarter. I think it, in reality, could push back to quarters ahead. So we'll see what it is. Cheddar says everyone is straight coping here. Sad. Do you know it'll be even sadder when you're sitting on your own because you can't watch the stream? I swear it feels like Archer misses all targets. I still think they'll get there, but they are a little disappointing. Do you know what? It'll come a stage when it won't be so disappointing, my guy. I think we all need to go through these stages as companies. I think it shakes out with money. Now, look, you can be caught on the right side of it. You can be caught on the wrong side of it. We've all got caught on the wrong side here, where we've held through incredible bad times and it feels like we've nothing to show for it. But at the same time, if you don't hold through the bad times, you can't guarantee yourself that you're going to be there for the good times. So I wouldn't worry too much, Zed Stacker. But no, I know exactly what you mean. Matty Gersh says, I want to hear a Hustle Brother question on the Q&A section of the earnings.
As soon as we get there, Matty, I'm with you. I got a few questions. Yeah, we got a few questions we would definitely throw his way. So hopefully the ones that get paid the big bucks and the analysts from HC and Savi, you know, they'll nail down and do the big questions. But one thing I do want to go back and kind of get some comparison on is we had Joby talking about them flying their first conforming aircraft, which was brought up on that Q's earning call that we just went over a few days there. So, I know it's been one of those things where it's like we don't want to compare the two companies as, again, it's the Apple and the Android, not just the different use cases, but really different business cases in which these companies are going after, the sale of aircraft, let alone to basically just owning and operating the aircraft. No, you're good. Go. I might have you take it over from there. I was trying to think. But yeah, with Joby doing the first conforming aircraft flights for TIA, I know it's not. We're trying to take the race away from this, and I think that's something as the channel too. It's like we want to cover all eVTOL, but yet also kind of separate, certain races that these companies need to be in, neck and neck together, getting across the finish line. But again, if Archer comes out and they talk about how 704AX is the aircraft they're taking for TIA, as Tom had mentioned on the last one, where they're going to go through the VTOL flight envelope, and then they'll be taking 704AX for TIA testing. So for me, and I'm sorry, the big word there is conforming. So, and that's with the conforming aircraft. So again, you've gotten a lot of flight miles from Joby, but was it with their conforming aircraft? So now we start the clock on flight miles, flight data from conforming aircraft. And maybe we look at Archer as another player who can kind of, again, get on that time schedule to really be a part of the Innovate 28 and maybe may be in a position not just to passenger just the Olympic dignitaries and VIPs, but maybe, again, depending on production numbers, get into that range where aircraft that they sold maybe could be, in that airspace as well. Also contingent on FAA approval, and also, to get the numbers and see how much they're going to keep the build out going. So you got the video up. We're going to check it.
Here. It's happening.
Let's see.
Marco, first of all, says, hi, brother, from Italy. 2 friends and I
Hey.
have a total of 8,000 shares of Vertical and 5,000 of Archer. We're eagerly awaiting this quarterly report to see if we finally see a rise in both stocks. What do you think? Thanks, Marco, Paolo, and Elna. Speak slowly, please, because we're not English. Marco, do you know what we will do?
You're good.
We will get through this shareholder letter, and then what we'll do, we'll break it down. Is that okay, my guy? But thank you for coming to join with us. Guys, also smash that like button. We're going to keep no ads for the whole stream if we get 150 likes. If we don't get 150 likes, I'm going to have to turn the ads on. Right, shareholder letter. Guys, can you see that? Oh, there we go. That might be a little bit better for you. Right, so going down, looking at the highlights. U.S. operations expected to begin this year under the eVTOL Integrated Pilot Program and in preparation for LA28 Olympic Games. So for anyone that keeps bashing Archer saying they're not going to the LA 2028 Olympics, here we go. First line, they're going. Advanced commercial readiness with expanded piloted flight test program and operational control of Hawthorne Airport in LA. Record certification progress as Archer is first to close phase 3 of the FAA's 4-phase type cert process for eVTOL aircraft. Significant progress made on dual-use hybrid autonomous with a phase program award expected later this year. And rapidly advancing AI stack through partnerships with NVIDIA, Palantir, and Starlink amid Department of Transportation's 20 billion ATC modernization effort. Look, we hit it on the head, my guys, just through the highlights going through. Strong liquidity, Q1, you'll be happy to know. Go, you should be an analyst, my guy, 1.8 billion.
Yes.
I love how he does this. Right, so dear shareholders, the VTOL industry is not just a technology story. It is a civilization story. I intend to make sure Archer is the company that writes it. When Archer was selected as the official air taxi provider of LA28 Olympic Games, the message was unmistakable. The future of urban air mobility is no longer theoretical, but proclamations don't build new modes of transport. Execution does. Public-private partnership does. President Trump and the administration clearly understand that if America intends to lead the next generation of aerospace and defense, we can't afford to wait. What the eVTOL industry needed was a structured national program to quickly and safely bring air taxis to market. In 2025, President Trump, the Department of Transportation, and the FAA delivered that, an executive order establishing the eVTOL Integrated Pilot Program. In 2026, Archer and their American peers are set to begin operating under that program, flying in cities across the country, marking the arrival of the chapter in American aviation. Archer's path to commercializing eVTOL technology is rooted in first principles design, a safe passenger-carrying aircraft purpose-built to handle rapid back-to-back trips of 20 to 50 miles in urban environments at low cost and low noise profile. While much of the industry spent a decade cycling through configurations, Archer committed to a partial tilt architecture design for air taxi use case and FAA certification from day one. That discipline has compounded. 8 years in, no one else in the eVTOL industry has moved as fast as we have. But civil aviation is only half the equation. It grows quicker. It grows clearer to me every day that next generation hybrid vertical lift is becoming an imperative for the US to maintain air dominance. At first glance, the easiest path seems attractive. Simply hybridize your existing eVTOL or eCTOL platform, get better payload and range, and convince defense customers that it meets their needs. That's a sales-led approach, not a first principles one. Defense procurement is a performance and cost equation. The winner is typically whoever delivers the broadest mission set at the lowest cost. You can't retrofit your way into finding the solution. One of the key reasons we partnered with Anduril is their deep understanding of the US and its allies' need for the next generation VTOL aircraft. Beyond legacy programs that have been entrenched in the market for 50 plus years, together we have designed and begun building our clean sheet hybrid aircraft, drawing on the technologies Archer has developed and the technologies we acquired from Over Air, Lilium, and Karam. I am confident that Archer Anduril team is one of the greatest aerospace teams in this generation. Top technical fellows from Boeing, former chief engineers from Lockheed, and leading PhD research from Stanford. You only get a chance to work on a team like this once the windows to get selected into these decades-long program of record are coming fast. I believe our hybrid aircraft is the most sophisticated vertical lift platform ever developed. It is not incremental, it is generational. When people see what we've built, they will recalibrate what they believe America can field. I cannot wait to show it off. Archer is now a multi-threat company, and we expect to begin initial operations of our air taxi in the US cities, winning phased government awards and deploying our AI solutions later this year. Adam Goldstein. That is statement.
So we might hear about defense in this call. That's insane.
Remember I said every quarter it seems like they focus on a different thing. It's like last quarter it was very heavy on like EIPP and sort of getting that noise out of the equation about the 2-blade versus the 4-blade. Before that, was it Hawthorne or so? Before that, I just can't remember. But defense is big. Defense is big, my guys. We're getting it here optimistic. Let's see then. Don't come here to be a short beer, someone says. Love it. Right, so initial operations. We have New York, New Jersey, Vermont, Delaware, Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and the LA area. So US operations are expected to begin this year. Archer expects midnight operations in American cities to begin this year through the White House eVTOL Integrated Pilot Program and as part of preparation to serve the official air taxi provider of the LA 28 Olympic Games in coordination with the US Department of Transportation and the FAA. Under the EIPP, Archer was selected as an air taxi partner in free winning application encompassing 8 states, including Florida, Texas, and New York. Advanced commercial readiness expanded flight test program with piloted VTOL and CTOL flights across expanded fleets taking place on a near daily basis and often multiple times a day. Click here to see the recent video. So that was the one we just seen prior to the earnings call.
Yeah.
Or prior to the shareholder letter. Record FAA certification progress. So Archer reached a key milestone on its path to FAA type certification of Midnight, becoming the first eVTOL company to close phase 3 of FAA's 4-phase type certification process. In parallel with this work to close out phase 3, Archer has already been advancing work in phase 4 for some time now. This is where Midnight's compliance with FAA airworthiness requirements will be demonstrated through formal testing and analysis. Significant progress on dual use. That seems to be a big one this time too, is the dual use and the hybridization of the aircraft. Archer work continues in partnership with Anduril on its dual-use hybrid autonomous aircraft, believing it will be the most sophisticated vertical lift platform ever developed in this category. As part of this program, Archer anticipates beginning to win phased government awards this year. That is massive. Rapidly advancing AI stack. So Archer continued to advance its AI stack this quarter through its partnerships with 3 phased defining technology leaders. NVIDIA is integrating its IGX4 platform to power safety capable onboard compute and autonomy ready flight systems. Starlink will deliver high speed, low latency, lower orbit satellite connectivity for Midnight aircraft. And their partner Palantir was recently down selected as a finalist for the FAA's Smart AI project, instrumental to Department of Transportation's 20 billion air traffic control modernization efforts. And I want to hear more about that. There's an 704AX in vertical lift configuration. So behind the scenes, guys, we have... I don't know what that red yoke is there. These are some pictures of Midnight. That is your N74AX with the pilot on board. That looks like N703AX. That's the one we keep seeing the video of, guys. And that's the, what do we call it?
The show model. It's not. It doesn't have an engine in it or multiple engines. It looks like we missed earnings by a penny on the earnings per share. Everything else looks awesome.
Right.
We did $7 too, by the way.
That is your shareholder letter. Let me see. Have we got... the press release? Right. So Archer announces first quarter 2026 results. So U.S. operations are expected to begin this year under a White House eVTOL integrated pilot program in preparation for LA 28 Olympics, advanced commercial readiness with expanded piloted flight program operation in Hawthorne Airport. Record FAA certification progress. So that is phase 3 of phase 4, or out of 4 phases. Significant progress in the dual-use hybrid, and they're expecting contracts later this year. Rapidly advancing the AI stack for NVIDIA, Palantir, and Starlink for the ATC, and the end of Q1 2026 with 1.8 billion. Going down, we have... so we've read through all of that. So the end of the quarter with 1.8 billion in liquidity. Arch continues to maintain a strong balance sheet with 1.8 billion in liquidity and limited debt exposure. Q1 26 marks another quarter of demonstrating consistent financial execution with Archer meeting its adjusted EBITDA loss guidance for the first quarter 2026. We have 1.6 in revenue. That is coming from 1.6 in revenue. Is that coming from the...
That's either Hawthorne or the UAE.
Oh, that's Hawthorne.
That's Hawthorne.
Okay.
Very good.
So liquidity and cash flow. We ended Q1 2026 with 1.775 billion in cash equivalents and short-term investments on their balance sheet, an additional 7.3 million of restricted cash. Their Q1 cash equivalents and short-term investments decreased by 188.8 million from Q4 2025, primarily due to 149.1 million cash used in operating activities and 32.6 million used in the purchase of property and equipment. So again, the revenue increased by 1.3 million from Q4 25 to 1.6 as the expanded operations in Hawthorne Airport. Operating expenses and net loss. Q1 26 had operating expenses increased by 21.5 million from Q4 25 as they continued to invest in expanding flight testing, certification efforts, and production activities for Midnight aircraft, along with investment in design and development efforts for their hybrid aircraft. Q1 26 net loss increased by 28.8 million from Q4 2025, primarily driven by 21.5 million increase in operating expenses, 7.3 in non-cash gain, with other income net and a 1.2 million decrease in interest income net, offset by 1.3 million increase in revenue generated. Adjusted EBITDA of Q1 2026 was a loss of 172.5 million, which is within guidance range of 160 million to 180 million. The loss was planned increase of 34.6 million over Q4 2025, mainly due to reasons mentioned above for the increase in operating expenses. Q2 2026 financial estimates have Archer in the second quarter as follows. Adjusted EBITDA expected to be a loss for 170 to 200 million. Guys, how are we feeling?
Wow.
Go for it. Go.
Okay, I'll go for it. Wow. Again, let me say it again. Wow. I'm so. If I could bottle this energy up, I could have it the rest of my life. I mean, I'm so excited right now. Good cash balance, within guidance in as far as the loss, which we all knew they were going to have a loss. No big deal. Talking about defense, guys, this is
A whale
awesome.
shot it up to 703 at one stage.
Yeah. And then to top it all off, you're here watching the Hustle Brothers YouTube channel, listening to Liam tell you all that. That guy should be on Audible. Let me tell you, that was nice, Liam. I really appreciated that. It was something about that Irish accent that just made everything so much more clearer. I don't know. I can't explain it. That was cool. So like and subscribe.
I'm not even going to give the Electric Whisper a platform because I just can't be arsed. Let's go down. None of you says there are more than Midnight aircraft. They will have many future products. Unlike Joby, my future depends on Archer. Pretty all in. Big shout out, L3 Reacher. Archer Pumping says Neo Power. Yeah, it went up all the way to 705. It looked like we're currently sitting at 769. So what, 3.67% after hours. But again, guys, you can't really take too much from where we pump on this. you can get more of an indication where it goes around earnings in the Q&A.
Yes.
But until tomorrow morning, we're not really going to know. But look, all signs look positive at the moment. Dylan, I need to jump across to you. I know this is one man that will be over the moon with this report.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay pretty calm. I mean, it was nice to see the Archer, get up over the 7 and look like it could hold that. I think that something that we're really overlooking here is, again, it's a 6-month backlog that you need to really look at these quarterly earnings calls. So this is the first time that they're mentioning in the shareholder letter that they're mentioning over air, Lilium, and Carum and the patents that they received from them. So you're just hearing that on previous earnings calls. Basically, is Adam touting out that he has 1,000, basically 1,000 IPs under the Archer umbrella. So I think, again, as we look into defense, we need to look at why these patents were picked up. He said that maybe the Lilium patent wouldn't come in for a few years, but when you look at the blades on over air, I think they're about 40 feet or so in diameter or radius via the circle. So that actually is fitting more into like your Apaches and such like that when you compare them side by side on the sense of what those rotorcraft are. So, this is something to see if Archer, whether it be Monarch, Mothra, any of those initial mock-up designs, he said Giraffe was something that he put in honestly just for the Reddit crowd. So, I think Adam's one who does pay attention to the retail shareholders, and not only for himself, looking to go ahead and get the stock price up somewhere where he can get some more compensation package and, get some shares sold on his own as he's holding tight to what he owns. Getting into really looking at what we're doing and, really finding out the whys behind, we were diluted to pick up these patents from over air and Carum and such. And we have to remember the Carum comes from a DARPA background. So you have all that DARPA influence already going in with Carum. And Carum actually was, they were with like Z-Aero actually making eVTOLs before Joby was even doing it. So yeah, I'm kind of soaking it all in. The cash, I'm gonna take a stab and say it's probably from the early payments from the launch edition customers, which Bria was talking about and such on the last call. But again, they got 703AX flying today. They're clearly not scared to fly CTOL or ramp for their VTOL. But again, we'll hear as much as we can hear on what's it called, the defense side. But it does look like they're leaning into AI. So Adam's one where when AI was kind of hot, he was touting AI. Before this recent software bubble kind of burst, he was touting the Archer also in the software. So it'll be interesting to see which way he leans in on this call, and see if he's giving the market what they want, or if he's just sticking true to what his business can provide and continuing to grow that out. But again, I also want to hear if anybody has taken out any lease space on Hawthorne, because again, you got to go back the quarters. He doesn't care about Hawthorne making money. He literally said that on the call. He's like, don't see us picking up Hawthorne as any sort of revenue stream. Like he's like, I care less if this thing brings in money. They're EBITDA positive, so we're not going to lose money on leasing it. So really at this point, what are we doing with Hawthorne? And not so much what are we doing with Hawthorne, what are other airline or eVTOL companies looking to do with inside Hawthorne. So if they're looking to fly in LA 27, 28, again, we've heard from other companies that the infrastructure is really a bottleneck that they need to figure out. So right now, Archer has an airport. Archer goes off CCS charging. We know that they have a partnership with Signature Aviation. Beta also has a partnership with Signature Aviation. So again, that triangle is going to bring you infrastructure build outs. And really, it's a different sort of infrastructure build out when you're putting in a CCS charging station as opposed to maybe a competitor charging network that they're looking to put in as well. So I think, again, if we can start mapping out where these charging networks are, and one thing that Archer has not yet given us that every other company has been what they're specifically going to do under the EIPP. So, we'll see if any other documents come out around the 430 range or so. But every company has been pretty clear on what their mission is for the EIPP. So, it kind of need to hear from Archer. Is this going to be something that 703 is going to be their flagship aircraft for EIPP and doing any use case services? or are they basically holding back till 704AX is proven out? And then again, this is the first call where we've had conflict going on. It was really recent that it had started last time that Adam had talked on the quarterly call. So he basically just gave a nod out for safety for
We didn't
everybody over
actually
that
hear anything
area.
about Middle East, did we?
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see, as you know, some of the competitors were saying that they had the 2 shots on goal, both U.S. and international, the UAE operations for passenger flights. You know, we're gonna have to see what Adam says on the call when it does come time to talk about entering UAE, because again, those were the first launch edition customers, let alone the first ones that were funding really Archer's balance sheet with the early MOU orders back in 2021. So again, I think it's always been this kind of like battle over the soil, and for over a year now, I've been saying that Adam feels that he's got a product that is proven, or he's got proven tech that he can go mature out to his product, and he's ready to sell it. So if it's those in the UAE that are ready to buy it, he's got no problem going over there and selling it. Now, if he's putting pressure on the FAA by saying, I'm gonna go over to the UAE and sell this, then I think it's a great thing for the whole eVTOL industry in UAM, where again, this starts to have to speed up the FAA, get Duffy and Bedford to get that money. Because again, to get hundreds of these in the skies, we're going to need that modernization of the ATCs. So, again, I think we take in what we heard from a few earnings calls ago, see if those are brought up. And then on today's earnings call, maybe we look at, I'm interested again to say, like I've already said, to see where that CapEx spend is going to go and what they're going to do with the 1.8 billion. Because again, if it's time to start buying or, acquiring X, Y, or Z company for any reason. And we've gone over market caps of other eVTOL companies and such like that are, in the sub 1 billion, even like the $1 to $500 million range. So, but you never know. Q3, we were not expecting Hawthorne Airport to be what was brought up on the quarterly call. And then, 20 minutes before the call started, they were setting up shop at Hawthorne, and then just signed the lease on the new airport. So I'm excited. I'm digesting, but yeah.
Is everyone experiencing that problem? Video feed is all lag. Guys, jump in, let us know. Are we lagging? If we're lagging, I might have to switch you to hostel. Sorry to get in the middle of that there.
No.
There's no point you keep going on if no one can hear you.
Yeah, no problem. But again, I think that this one, it seemed like and I'm not here to take shots at Adam.
Oh
but
no, they're not lagging. Go on, Dylan.
Awesome,
you can continue.
Yeah, no, and it was something that Adam had put into the proxy statement letter, where he was really thanking all the investors and he's going to do the best work for them. And I appreciate that, but to me, this shareholder letter was more it just to me was a little bit more straightforward and not apologetic sounding. So I feel like maybe we got the brash Adam back, who's ready to come out and tout, how far along Archer is. And again, saying that, and that's the thing, they are getting there quicker than other eVTOL companies. That doesn't mean they're going to cross the finish line necessarily before other eVTOL companies. But when you look at the time, money spent on the build out, Archer Aviation has been able to produce not just Maker, but then divert off Maker, and basically have that as like a half scale prototype, and then get into a midnight prototype, prove VTOL transition out with that over 400 times on their flights. Basically have that in the sandbox over in Saudi Arabia right now, continuing to build out the UAE presence. And again, just as today we had 703 AX flying, and then on the 8th, you had another one of those kind of weird, right before it looked like 703 was going to land, and then it went down to 0 altitude, and then looked like it might have even taken off again. So a lot, again, I say they may not have as many flights, but if these are conforming aircraft that they're looking to take to the skies, that's the 4:30 alarm. I apologize. But yeah, so it'll be exciting to see. But again, we know with the program of records, this is something Adam wants to talk about on the call, but I think the best thing he can do is give us some points in the direction of how mature that defense aircraft is, so that we can maybe look at a timetable when Andrew can take ownership of that aircraft.
Thank you so much for that, Dylan. Guys, Make sure there's 281 of you here, 282 between X and YouTube. This is a no ad stream. You said that ads were getting in the way during the Joby earnings call. So to keep this a no ad stream, I need 150 likes. We're currently just above 50, I think. You have half an hour to get 100 more between 280 of you. 100 more likes and we'll keep it no ads. If not, it will convert to an ad stream. I put that up on the screen there, guys. At first glance, the easiest path seems attractive. Simply hybridize your existing eVTOL or eCTOL platform. And I think that is one of the most important quotes on the letter. I think this is how simple everyday retail investors think. And this is how I genuinely thought. I thought you just have your simple midnight design and you just convert it to a hybrid and then kit it out with, say, Anduril systems. This is really important. And I think another thing that really stood out to me here is existing eVTOL or eCTOL. If Adam wasn't focused or thinking about having an eCTOL platform, I don't think he would mention eCTOL. He'd concentrate on eVTOL. And I think this goes much deeper than their testing of the conventional takeoff and landing vehicle. I honestly, and I've said it so many times, I believe that we will be... It won't happen in the next few quarters, but I believe at some stage we will be generating revenue from selling conventional takeoff and landing midnight. I think there's a different market for it. You won't be seeing them flying around your cities, but again, just like Beta are doing, not only with their flights out to Hawaii, but also there in Scotland with the Royal Mail. Flights to islands, you don't need a vertical takeoff and landing capability. You can take off from your airport and away you go. Go, you're a massive man when it comes to... You're a massive man anyway, my guy. 6'9".
I appreciate that.
But you're a massive man on the defensive aspects of Archer Aviation. Is this... I think since Archer Defense, is this your favorite press release from Archer so far?
This is if it's not my favorite, it's a close second to the Hawthorne, just because the Hawthorne was just so massive, even though we ended up red after that one. I don't think we'll do that this time. I'm very excited about this one. But to talk about defense a little bit, when you have a defense eVTOL, it's kind of a requirement that is VTOL. Unless you're shipping, if you're shipping troops, I mean, but the idea is to one day put some sort of either a payload or some type of defense capabilities, is what I can call it on YouTube, so that you can have autonomous flight go in and 100% success rate on the mission without having the chance of losing the pilot, which is the most essential part of a military operation. You do not want to lose that pilot because, one, of course, you're losing a human life, but two, to retrain and get a new pilot costs way more than just keeping that pilot. But what if we didn't have a pilot to worry about it at all? That's what Archer Aviation brings to the table for the Department of War now. For the eCTOL model, this has also, and I know people don't think this, but this does have civilian uses too. So they can offer the VTOL version that does the CTOL and the VTOL aircraft at a higher premium than the CTOL model. So that if you don't want to go full bore spending all your money on one aircraft, you can have a cheaper option on the aircraft. And then we'll have the flight edition models, which will get better and better over time. And yeah, this is just I agree, this is the best part of the whole press release, that sentence that Liam has highlighted right there.
Oh, thank you so much, Anna. I want to share this. I thought you were going to get distracted by this one as it came up. Big Trey says, oh, so this is GoatGains. Nice put a face with an X account. Wow.
Nice to meet you, Trey. Good to see you.
Do you know what, Big Trey? If you like GoatGains on X and you like GoatGains here, GoatGains also has a YouTube channel. So make sure to go across to GoatGains on YouTube and bang that subscribe button. And also, while you're there, while you're out of the stream, you then have to jump across to Stock Dylan and make sure you bang the subscribe on Stock Dylan.
Appreciate you.
Big Trey says, will do. Yeah, guys, if we get Dylan to 100 subs in this stream, we go to, what, 150 subs in this stream? Yeah, I'll start doing giveaways left, right, and center for you guys. So make sure you go across to their channels. Just smash the subscribe button. It takes 2 minutes. Jump out of this stream. I think some of you on YouTube, if you pay for the premium on YouTube, you don't even have to leave the stream. You can just go and search it up, tap it, and come back. I can see some of you going now. Guys, be ready.
Oh, gosh.
Hey, quick one for you, Lehman, guys, real quick. You know, it would, and I'm curious, because we often have some pilots that are in the chat. So if you're a pilot in the chat, definitely feel free to hop in and answer this. But you know, until we do get to the autonomous flight versions, you know, something that was interesting that I picked up, and it's only been said, or at least I have only heard it said from Archer, is, you know, you have pilots, and again, I'm not one, but you have pilots that are basically leaving their families, leaving their homes for days on end, sleeping in hotels, sleeping in other cities, you know, just to go ahead and get on that flight, get back home, maybe spend a little bit of time with their family as well. So as we know that, you know, Archer's having the pilot academy and such like that, to go ahead and train out their pilots. And then once we, you know, if I just kind of hone this in on LA, you're basically going to have pilots that are able to, you know, have that shorter commute to work, and they get to go home and stay with their families. So again, it kind of gives you that ability to operate as a pilot, but you don't have to be away from your family. So this UAM may also give an opportunity, while it is in a piloted version, to have a little bit more of that ecosystem where you're having both somebody who has that dream of being a pilot, but also can kind of have that family and doesn't have to leave them from days on end too. So just a little nice touch.
Absolutely.
Big shout out, eVTOL fan. Fellas, fun show. What's new beyond relabeling prior announcements? Separate narrative momentum from hard-proof TIA, FAA credit testing, certified aircraft, signed revenue. eVTOL fan, I think this is like we were trying to say prior to, I think 5 minutes prior to the release. I think it was the same with Joby as well. I think both companies are being very transparent over the whole quarter, and as things actually take place, they're actually starting to share it to retail investors, so we don't have to wait until the earnings. So I feel like both earnings calls, it feels a little bit like that, where it feels like we're getting no new news, and I feel like we've both, Joby and Archer, we were so used to like this surprise announcement of Hawthorne being a lease signed for Hawthorne, or Joby and L3 Harris, or Joby Toyota and the tranches. So I wouldn't worry too much about how have you said it, relabeling of prior announcements. But I get what you mean. There's no drop jaw like announcement here where you're like, oh my god, what has happened? But no, America seems to like it so far, guys. How do you feel about that? Do you think it's relabeled? I need to give a big shout out to Neo. Thanks for doing these live earnings. Big shout out, my guy. Thank you so much.
I see you on X a lot. Big shout out. So I'm assuming the same one, but yeah, it's the same one. Big shout out,
guys. Anyone on X, go over there. Make sure to follow Neo on X. Yeah, guys. How do you feel about the relabeling of prior announcements?
Just real quick, I'm gonna say what I said on the Joby call, and that's where, for like eVTOL fan and such, you know, if you're hearing like a regurgitation of what you think you already knew for the last 3 months, be proud, because that means you are very well tapped into the eVTOL industry. So if you know, if we're not able to be tapped in every day, every week, every month, I mean, that's what these earnings calls are for. So when we talk about
congratulations, you're on the top of us, the little weirdos that know everything about the company.
Exactly. So it's like, you know, whether it's the CARM, the over air, you know, hearing about the finances that they have on the balance sheet right now, it's like, it would almost be, again, it's like, I don't want to be surprised in a scary way with anything coming out in the shareholder letter where it's something that maybe they were too fearful to kind of market out to us as we're going through the quarters. Because again, they're still in that stage where they need to stay relevant, not just to retail shareholders, but they need to basically stay on the eyes of the institutional shareholders as well. So they may not always have the opportunity to kind of wait to drop 3 months of information with inside one quarterly call. But I think, again, a year from now, 18 months from now, we're going to start to see those metrics over not just revenue, but again, the metrics of the aircrafts that are being produced. And then that way we can really do a quarter comparison from that to Joby, to hover, to beta, vertical, and basically all those metrics that these companies are taking in. So I think, again, right now we're in this build out stage, and it's not just building out the aircraft, it's building out the company. So I think in this, we're framing what Archer Aviation is today, and what they can do with what they have for tomorrow.
Going across, Bo mentioned with Tesla full self-drive partner with Archer in the future. Do you know what? There's two ways I can answer this. I can give you an honest answer, or I can give an answer that will send this stream into oblivion. We'll have thousands and thousands of people in there. Tesla is a touchy subject around Archer Aviation. They're about what was it? 6 months ago, 8 months ago?
It was like October. It was the last big pump we had. It was, I think, October 7th to the 10th. It was right around the Stellantis air show also, which helped a lot. We just had a bunch of catalysts all at once. And then on top of that, you've got Archer Archer's potential partnership with Tesla. It was madness. What a time to be alive, guys. That's all I want to say about it.
I literally round in one video got like 25,000 views, one got like 10,000 views, but then I was like number one target for the whole I don't know eVTOL community for the next month or so. No, Tesla full self-driving, it would be beautiful to have that, but no, I don't think it's gonna materialize, my guy. And at the same time, if Tesla integrate in airports into their whole system, it kind of defeats the purpose of Archer being able to fly you to the terminal on occasions. So I don't know. I believe you can get your full self-drive or your robo-taxi to a vertiport, no problem. A bit like Uber, you'll be able to. I think Uber is doing exactly what you're saying with the full self-driving. Uber will marry up your Joby S4 with your Journey and away you go. But again, I'm going to say this now. I've said it many, many times. I believe Archer will be partnered with Uber in a separate way. Archer themselves won't be partnered with Uber, but just like Uber, you can have a Toyota Corolla, you can have a Ford Kuga, you can have whatever car you want. So just like that, your operators will be partnered with Uber. So you'll see Midnights flying for Uber. You'll have Archer on them, but it'll be under your new company, your what we call it, GoatGains Air.
Hey, I'm good with that.
And maybe a slight surprise that we may not hear on this call, but I'll take it if we do. So I'm going to say it's going to be one call away, as I'm going to go with the 6-month cadence on this. It was last call. We heard Tom talking about the Mosaic rule and the light sport. So it was kind of, again, interesting that was brought up, as we know that Archer has taken their aircraft to be basically a over 4,000 pound aircraft, which would definitely take them out of the light sport capability. But then again, off the top of my head, I'm thinking, they did have Maker, which was a sub 4,000 pound aircraft. So, if you are having proven sec shown out on 302, 704AX, is that something that you can go and maybe tool back into that Maker aircraft, or get something, again, that's going to fit into those specs of that lighter air sport market, which, again, Joby may go into, but it's always interesting again when you hear it mentioned on the guidance, or I'm sorry, on the earnings call. Just as it is, putting a little guidance in the head of what could be to come with Archer is I think there really is a big ecosystem, both through the software sales of aircraft, global US, all that combined that they're really looking to tap into. And like Adam said, the market hasn't figured out Archer yet. So probably most of us here on the call and in the chat, we probably got a good eye on what we think Archer is and can be. But it's just for the market to wake up and figure out when it's time to turn it into, cost opportunities, and turn it into basically green days and just have it keep bumping up.
World Free Speech says Archer Aviation will soon start flying taxi drones in 10 states. Guys, I've noticed I've skipped over a load of messages. If I don't get to you, just put it back in. I won't mind. Just don't spam the chat about 5,000 times with the same message. But if I haven't got to you, feel free to jump in again. A VTOL fan says Joby mentioned 2 times manufacturing speed. The parts for the 9 planes, 2 shots on goal. 2 shots on goal was during the earnings call. Elfrey Harris demo progress, etc. Look, this is not taken away from what Joby done.
Mm-hmm. We love
I'm not
Joby.
turning an Archer call into Joby, like we didn't turn Joby into about Archer. But look, Joby they're doing immense. Joby's going to be up tomorrow as well, so I'm not too worried. Joey says, just got out of work, not being read is a great start. Big shout out, my guy.
That's a good way to leave work, Joey. I like that.
Apparently, I contributed to the pump and dump. No harm, no foul.
I definitely did, and I'm ashamed to admit that. So
shameless. He was holding GoatGains' hands.
Yeah.
GoatGains started the rumor.
We'll talk about it another day. I don't want to ruin this stream, but one day I'll have a tell all about that.
That's all right. You gonna have the big book at the end, Goat, the tell-all book. And I saw in the chat
at the end of your the book you're writing about Archer.
That's fair. All right. You know what? We'll have 1 to 2 NY Times bestsellers. So yeah, what started as a 3 to 4 page thesis on Archer Aviation has grown to like a 56-page paper. I'm not in college. I'm not enrolled into college. I don't know why I'm doing this.
Publish that book as an Archer book.
But it keeps going. So yeah, maybe my secret's out there, but so hopefully nobody else is better at writing and gets it pumped out quicker than me. But
nobody can write me.
I figure at the end of the day, man. Thank you, Goat, man. Thank you, Liam. And it's like I feel like this is
Liam to do the audio book for it.
See, there you go. See? and I feel like it's really this like maturating story with inside Archer Aviation, and it's not just about the aircraft. It's literally about a new mode of transportation. And I know that there's other companies that are doing this too, but again, we have to look at what Archer Aviation is in a singular look, basically singularly looking at them as a company. So if we can highlight and nod things that are Beta is doing, where they're having CTOL and then possibly having VTOL aircraft on the side as well, it's like, boom, Archer has that. Can Archer run an OEM network? Yeah, if they chose that they wanted to, again, they're going to have I would say they would have less build out of critical infrastructure. And basically, I think they would be able to turnkey a heliport easier than some of the competition with their charging stations and such. So I don't think it's out of the question that Archer could go and run an OEM, but it's just not the type of business so far that Adam's put on the table that he wants. He wants basically people to line up, buy these aircraft from him, and once they're out of his hands, they're free to do with them as they want, wrap them with company name or any kind of publicity that you may see. So again, once we start seeing regular rotorcrafts and Cessnas kind of faded out, is it like, is the Midnight or something going to be an aircraft you see as it's kind of flying the banner across the beach, letting you know where the discounts and the deals are. And also the unit economics are going to come down on these as well. So the more of these that you're going to produce, the more orders, because again, if you got somebody that's ready to buy 20, 25 of these, and if your build cost versus your sale cost, you might be able to cut a little bit off that price for that person ready to get that firm order. And then again, if we go ahead and get a firm order placed, then we can start looking at delivery dates. So, does that firm order state that these need to be delivered in 6 months? I can't say that is because there's no firm orders yet. But if we get a firm order with cash through the door with deliveries, pending in the 16 to 18 month range, and that's something that Archer feels they can deliver on. Maybe that's a contract that they are willing to sign and actually put their name on that ink, saying yes, we will follow through on this order. Because at this point, really no reason to commit to a firm order if you don't think you can produce the aircraft. And again, you want to make sure that you're producing aircraft that will be out of the experimental class and approved by the FAA. So again, it's all this kind of recipe that's swirling around and marrying together right now. But yeah, let's get these partners to send some money Archer's way, and basically have them get more cash run rate. And it'll be one of those things as Archer gets closer to the 10s and 12s. Keep an eye on any acquisitions that they've done or they've been talking about doing, because again, the dilution right now is going to come through most likely through the investors. But once we do get those sales of aircraft coming in, again, we've ran the metrics where it's not going to take many aircraft sales to cut a full quarter's capex off. So you get about 20-25 aircraft in the firm order, and that takes care of a quarterly capex spend for you right there. So with that, it could always be good for the shareholders. And then, at a certain point, when Archer matures, we can start looking at share buybacks. And then again, for anybody that has 100 shares now, 1,000 shares now, if and when the Archer day comes where they're at a price and they feel like they're good to split at a 2-to-1, 4-to-1, 10-to-1, even if you're holding one Archer share today, that one Archer share is going to turn into 10. The price is going to come back down because it has split by X amount. And, usually at that time, the price becomes more palatable as long as the company's executing and maturing in the right way. Usually that stock price becomes more palatable for institutions and retail to buy back in. And you've already kind of had your dollar set average, and you've already had your shares banked. So again, this is that early investing, but being able to see through guidance and earnings calls, as opposed to early seed investments where you may not even be getting as much information from your company CEOs and such.
Jumping across, we have Archer Defense Daily says, "What's up, guys? The GOAT keeps cheating on Archer."
Oh no! I knew this was going to happen.
But if he was talking Rivian or something,
yeah. So Archer's my number one. Let me just say that. But I had to ride the wave of Joby getting all this attention. I'm trying to build a follower count here, guys. So that's all that's about. Please don't think that I've been called actually some really bad names by some people because I started posting Joby content. But let me just. I'm not on a Joby Aviation podcast, okay, guys? Well, we're the Archer Aviation podcast. We like Joby. Oh, I just dropped my microphone. We like Joby. Joby is awesome, but that's right. Archer's my baby, okay?
I know that. I know that's the truth.
Go hit a nice one there, guys. Anyone that's new here, we do an Archer Aviation podcast every Wednesday. However, this Wednesday, can we push it out to Thursday? And I'll tell you why. I'll be away. Look, I'm always traveling, guys. I'll be off the coast of Africa. So
okay.
Do you know what? I can do it on a beach. Enough a beach, my guy. But yeah, we'll do the Archer Aviation podcast on Thursday.
Let's lock it in. That sounds good.
Jumping across, holding and waiting and adding, Joey says. Romerzo says Joby Q1 was better than Archer's. That's how you look at my guy.
Joby is 9 years older as a company. Archer's only a year and a half in progress. I'm okay with that. Let's let Joby run. I want Joby to run. Joby's an awesome company. And let's just, instead of saying Joby versus Archer, we can say Joby is going to have this run, then Archer's going to run right behind them. It's great.
Look, it's one of those. I don't think we have to tear one company down to bring one company up. Yeah, Joby they smashed it. Joby had an unbelievable quarter. They pushed up 20%.
Don't get much better than that.
And that was one thing I wasn't expecting. I was expecting to go green of what, maybe 5% or so. 20% was absolutely immense. Big dogs there. But look, again, different businesses, guys. Archer are selling the aircraft, letting other companies operate them. Joby, on the other hand, primarily will be operating their own S4. They did say they have the lever to pull if they want to sell the S4, but ideally, I believe that the S4 will be a Joby operated product. I think they'll only actually sell the S4 if they need to gain revenue quickly, which ain't a bad thing either. They will need money. Money creates money. But yeah, I think we need to stop comparing Archer and Joby because they have the same, like they have a very similar vehicle that does similar things, but they're completely two different businesses.
Yeah, but I think, like you said, it's one of those things where it's like we continue to kind of like look at these companies and it's like and kind of learn each from them. Where again, if you're gonna have the OEM business, I love that the acquisition of Blade was able to come in. Again, that's going to produce seasonal traffic. So again, you can have your upswings in the summer, you can have a little bit of your downswings in the winter. Again, the basically unit economics of that, you have 90,000 passengers that are equipped into the Blade system, $200 a ride, and that's going to equal $18 million. So, really, you kind of have to elevate above just what Blade is doing, which means you got to have more aircraft than what Blade is operating now to work those into the ecosystem. And ultimately, you're going to need to drive that price per rideshare per seat on the rideshare down. Not everybody initially for the first 3 and 5 years is going to be able to put up the 200 or choose to put up the 200 for that OEM flight. So again, if you're bringing in $18 million of revenue, and then at that point you're not really taking in Blade's revenue anymore, you are Blade. So you've kind of countered in with it's kind of offset in a sense, like what you've taken in with Blade right there. But you got to have the aircraft to supply operations to 90,000 Blade customers. So it's just one of those things where, again, like I say, these are two different businesses, but I think they may take learning lessons from each other and to see how each one of these companies can be the most successful and continue to push forward, whether it is through revenue on the books, through these TIA testings, through the FAA tests, and have them all fall in line. So, I think it's great. And I think that's, what we've always been saying, where it's like Joby needs to have that blowout Q1 because Joby is technically that leader in the sense of, well, not nautical flight miles, because again, that can be a debate with Beta and such, but it's like you're really looking for them to be the industry leader. You want them to have the Electric Skies tour. You don't want things going wrong with that. So I don't think that Adam would necessarily want them to not be having the Electric Skies tour right now, because Adam doesn't have to be forward facing in a PR sense. Like now Joby can do all the PR for the eVTOLs and let the world know what those are. And Adam can get back to traveling around the world, visiting Asia, visiting UAE and other markets, Ethiopia. So again, something we haven't heard that much about, and then we'll get right to the comments, is any additional launch edition customers. So again, is it the sense of just the amount of aircraft that they're ready to commit to supply, that they've just kind of slowed, that they want to commit any launch edition partners on top of the ones that they had signed? The last one was, I think, Indonesia and then around Bali. I think it was Bali. But yeah, so basically just seeing if there's any of those launch edition partners and, bring the revenue in, but balancing it all out against the manufacturing. And then I think, we'll see if we hear any more on that golden line manufacturing process being brought down to Georgia as well.
I like this comment. Joby and Archer push each other to be better, like Coke versus Pepsi, Walmart versus Target. That's actually a better way of describing it. Just
and
me.
Pepsi's way better than Coke.
That is an unbelievable way of describing it. Instead of saying it's like Coke versus Pepsi, they push each other like Coke and Pepsi do. That shows that it doesn't mean they're operating in the same business, but they do push each other the same way. So, do you know what? That is, George like that too.
Nice job.
Save my calls. Archer equals Coke. Joby equals Blade operations 20 million. It went up to, if it went up to a soup airport operation 1.3 million versus Blade. We're comparing an airport versus a helicopter company.
Yeah, and
Do you realize how ridiculous that sounds?
so
Right,
again,
guys,
is
let
it
me know
live?
if you can hear
Let's
this.
see. But yeah,
Hello,
different
everyone.
businesses.
Thank
Let's
you for joining
go.
us, and welcome to the Archer
Can you hear
Aviation
that, yeah?
Company Q1 2026 Financial Results Conference Call. After today's prepared remarks, we will host a question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question, please press *1 to raise your hand. To withdraw your question, please press *1 again. I will now hand the conference over to Kate Kuehl, Head of Investor Relations. Kate, please go ahead.
Welcome to Archer's earnings call. This is Kate Kuehl, Archer's Head of Investor Relations. Today, we will be making forward-looking statements that are based on current assumptions. We don't undertake any obligation to update those assumptions as a result of new information or future events. Risks and uncertainties may cause our actual results to differ materially from those contemplated by these statements. For more information about potential risks and uncertainties, review the risk factors in our SEC filings. Today, we will also be discussing both GAAP and non-GAAP financial measures. A reconciliation of those measures is included in our earnings release from today. Now, I'll turn it over to Adam. Adam?
Thank you and good afternoon. I want to start by stepping back because the opportunities unfolding across the aerospace and defense market right now are massive. The future is arriving all at once, and the investments we are making across our civil, defense, and AI software businesses are forming a flywheel that increasingly reinforces itself. We are seeing that momentum unfold across the ecosystem. The US government is leaning in. President Trump, the DOT, and the FAA delivered the eVTOL integration pilot program last year, creating real-world testing environments for next-generation aircraft. And recently, Archer was selected as a partner in 3 of the winning EIPP applications across 8 states. We are on track to begin flying under that program in US cities later this year. Simultaneously, this administration is targeting to deploy over $20 billion for ATC modernization, an investment that would unlock new levels of safety and throughput across the national airspace. Foreign governments are following suit. The UAE, Saudi Arabia, Korea, Japan, and numerous others are building infrastructure and accelerating regulatory pathways to position themselves at the forefront of this new form of transportation. The largest airlines worldwide are also recognizing this moment and stepping up. We already work with 7 of them across our businesses, and our multi-billion-dollar order book for Midnight continues to grow. And the world's biggest stages are eager to showcase this future. We are collaborating closely with the LA 28 Olympic Games, DOT, FAA, surrounding communities, and other stakeholders to plan our launch of air taxi operations as the official provider for the Games. There will be millions watching as the future is being built in America. Let's focus on our air taxi progress. The reason we are positioned where we are today, a leader in the industry, traces back to the decisions that we made on day 1. Archer's path to commercializing eVTOL has always been rooted in a first principles approach, designing a safe, passenger-carrying aircraft purpose-built for rapid back-to-back trips of 20 to 50 miles in urban environments at low cost with a low noise profile. When I entered this sector, most of the competitors had spent a decade cycling through configurations. Archer committed very early on to a partial tilt architecture designed for the air taxi use case and for FAA certification from day 1. That discipline has compounded. 8 years in, no one else in the eVTOL industry has moved as fast as we have. And while the majority of our team is battling day to day to get through the final phase of certification and bring this new mode of transportation to market, I am focused on ensuring we future-proof our ability to scale. A type certifiable design is not enough. It requires us to solve 2 additional challenges. The first key unlock is industrial scale. We need to continue pushing our entire industrial base forward here in the US, which will deliver meaningful cost and performance improvements with each new generation of Midnight. Advanced materials, new manufacturing processes, further advanced propulsion systems, and components built for volume production on the scale of autos. We have to prove out these innovations before the FAA will allow us to use them in commercially certified aircraft. We will deploy them first in autonomous attritable dual-use aircraft for cargo and defense, and then flow these technologies back to future iterations of Midnight, helping unlock step change improvements in cost and performance. This is just one example of how our three business lines compound on one another. The second key unlock is modernizing our national airspace. America's airspace today is a limiter on America's GDP growth, and we have to give it the ability to scale. While it can likely safely handle the additional traffic we expect over the next 3 to 5 years, the long-term scale of air taxis and AAM will require the U.S. to rework the infrastructure and software underlying air traffic control. The good news is this administration, and in particular, Secretary Duffy and Administrator Bedford, get this and are tackling it head-on. Today's system was not built for the volume or the kind of traffic that's coming over the next decade. This is why we've partnered with category-defining technology leaders, including Palantir, which was recently down-selected as a finalist for the FAA's SMART program, as well as NVIDIA and Starlink, both of which will bring next-generation capabilities to Midnight. We are focused on bringing the most innovative technologies to address the challenges we face. These are not adjacencies. They are the imperatives that will drive the flywheel, unlocking massive scale. But they are years-long efforts. The time to invest is now, and the good news is we're already executing against all of them. Let me turn to how we executed this quarter. We had a banner quarter on certification. Archer became the first eVTOL company to close Phase 3 of the FAA's 4-phase type certification process, and we have been advancing Phase 4 in parallel for some time now. Coupled with that exciting progress, this was also our most expansive quarter for our flight test program. With piloted VTOL and CTOL flights across our expanded Midnight fleet on a nearly daily basis, and often multiple times a day. This quarter, we also took over operations at Hawthorne Airport in LA. We have begun modernizing it so it can serve as an air taxi and mobility hub for the city of LA and its surrounding communities, and as our innovation hub for the next generation airspace technology we're developing with our partners. On the defense side, our work with Anduril continues to accelerate. As I discussed in my letter to the shareholders, defense procurement is a performance and cost equation. You cannot retrofit your way into the right solution. You must take a first principles approach. Our partnership with Anduril is doing just that. We chose to partner with Anduril because, among other strengths, they deeply understand what the U.S. and its allies need in next generation of VTOL aircraft, beyond the legacy programs that have been entrenched for 50 plus years. Together, we have designed and begun building our clean sheet hybrid aircraft, drawing on the technologies Archer has developed for Midnight and the IP we acquired from Karam, Overair, and Lilium. The window for these decades-long programs of record are approaching fast, and we will be ready. I continue to be amazed by what our teams can do. I firmly believe the Archer Anduril team is one of the greatest aerospace teams of this generation. Top technical fellows from Boeing, former chief engineers from Lockheed, leading PhD researchers from Stanford. You only get a chance to be part of a team like this once. I believe our hybrid dual-use autonomous aircraft will be the most sophisticated vertical lift platform ever developed in its category. It is not incremental, it is generational. When people see what we have built, they will recalibrate their beliefs about what America can field. I cannot wait to show it off. Stay tuned. Archer is now a multi-threat company. We expect to start initial air taxi operations in U.S. cities, begin winning phased government defense awards, and begin to deploy our AI solutions later this year. And we are executing from a position of strength with $1.8 billion in liquidity. I've never been more confident in what Archer is building or more proud of the team building it. With that, I'll turn it over to Priya.
Thanks, Adam, and good afternoon, everyone. I'll now take you through the key financial highlights for the quarter and provide our guidance for Q2. We continue to maintain a very healthy balance sheet with $1.8 billion in liquidity, one of the strongest positions in our sector. And with less than $100 million in debt, our liquidity is clean, flexible, and fully available to fund our strategic priorities without the overhang of significant leverage. Our spend for Q1 came in on guidance, a reflection of the rigor and intentionality we bring to every capital allocation decision. As discussed in our last call, and in line with the updates Adam shared today, this planned increase in our spend directly correlates to the opportunities we are seeing across civil, defense, and software, and the platforms we are building in each of those areas that we believe will allow us to capture a meaningful portion of the market. Our revenue for Q1 began to grow as we expanded operations at the Hawthorne Airport in LA. We expect this revenue to increase in Q2 as we continue to progress our plans to modernize that airport and its operations. Looking ahead, as we advance our commercial readiness with Midnight's expanded flight test program and operations under the EIPP and in LA, make advancements in the design, development, and build of our next-generation hybrid autonomous aircraft platform, and advance our AI software platform, we expect to slightly increase our investments for the quarter. For Q2, we estimate our adjusted EBITDA loss to be in the range of $170 million to $200 million. This expansion of our investment reflects our level of conviction in the multi-billion-dollar opportunities in front of us, not a deviation from discipline. We believe our multi-platform strategy is what separates Archer from the field, and our liquidity gives us the strength to execute it. And with that, I will turn it back over to the operator.
We will now begin the question and answer session. Please limit yourself to one question and one follow-up. If you would like to ask a question, please press *1 to raise your hand. To withdraw your question, please press *1 again. We ask that you pick up your handset when asking a question to allow for optimum sound quality. If you are muted locally, please remember to unmute your device. Please stand by while we compile the Q&A roster. Your first question comes from the line of Andre Shepard from Cantor Fitzgerald. Your line is now open.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. Thank you so much for taking our questions and congrats on all the great progress so far. Adam, for the first question, I wanted to touch on maybe defense and autonomy. It's sounding more and more that this is going to be a big focus for Archer going forward. So just curious if you could maybe give us a bit more color there. What kind of opportunities might you be pursuing or are you excited about, to the extent that you can talk about it? But how should we think about defense and autonomy for Archer going forward? Thanks.
Thanks, Andres. I'm going to let Tom answer that question to go through some of the defense opportunities. And as you might recall, I've explained in the past, Tom has been leading the defense platform while Benjamin has been really pushing hard to get the Midnight platform through certification. But I'll turn it over to Tom.
Yeah, hey, Andres. Well, Adam touched on some of the themes earlier in the call, but just to kind of like recap how we're thinking about defense. Going back to the beginning of Archer, it was all about building towards a mission and taking a first principles approach. And so, Midnight was optimized around this mission of moving people in and out of cities. It's optimized for low cost, high safety, low noise, and obviously designed bottoms up for certain manufacturing. So initially, we looked at if we could use a version of Midnight for defense. And, we did work with the Air Force over the years, and there might be some niche applications there. But for the significant opportunities, the ones with the largest need that we're targeting now, you can't expect to modify Midnight and have that function well for this different mission. Like it just doesn't make sense. So as we've said, we're developing a clean sheet new aircraft that's a hybrid vehicle, partnering with Anduril. And so again, we've taken this first principles approach for that aircraft, but it's obviously optimized around a different mission. So this dual use mission we're looking at has very specific payload, speed, range, cost targets, obviously quite different from Midnight. So I can't get into the details on any of those numbers, but we're now like pretty far into the development of this vehicle, and I'm confident it's going to be a pretty incredible machine. So based off of that progress and what we've seen from some of the customers that we're targeting, we've got I would say really strong conviction and optimism that our aircraft is going to be selected for some of these very large opportunities that are coming up in defense. So our goal is to show that aircraft later this year and ultimately win some of these phase down selects this year. So super exciting time.
Wonderful. Got it. That's super helpful. I appreciate all that color. And maybe just as a quick follow-up, I'm curious if we can get an update on piloted transition flight Any updates there, or when should we be targeting it? Thank you.
Yeah, Andres, this is Benjamin. Thanks for the question. Like we were saying, we're already very much in the midst of our piloted VTOL test campaign, and we've been rapidly expanding our cadence. So we're flying multiple aircraft, multiple times a day. And really the focus right now is on progressing and advancing through more and more complex test points ahead of full transition. So really central to that is the software verification and validation, which requires a higher level of rigor for piloted operations. So we're working through that methodically, and we're confident in the timeline. And just a little bit more color on that, we've moved through the hover regime, which is that first phase, faster than any prior phase. And this is the fastest we've progressed from a first flight through this point in a test campaign, and also with the fewest issues. So we're not too far away, but it'll be in the second half of the year. And our goal is to complete piloted transition and enter EIPP operations this year.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, and congrats again. We'll pass it on.
Thank you. Your next question comes from the line of Edison Yu from Deutsche Bank. Your line is now open.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for taking our questions. Wanted to ask about the ATC modernization efforts that you cited and the need for it in the U.S. Can you give us a sense what kind of ecosystem you envision for this, and sort of what are the roles of the various parties, whether it's some of those partners that you mentioned, like Palantir, the airlines, just how the kind of stakeholders and everything kind of comes together to get this ATC modernized?
Thanks, Edison. This is a new and really evolving discussion that's taking place right now. But the good news is we've been working on our broader AI products, specifically around ATC solutions for several years now. And there are lots of different groups that are participating. Palantir, for example, one of our partners, is participating in the SMART program. And whether Palantir wins or not, I think Archer has an opportunity to be part of the modernization effort, as we've already built a lot of tools that I think can add a lot of value. We haven't shown our solutions publicly, as it's still a very competitive space, but we do intend to show it pretty soon. So more on that to come.
Okay. And then just on back to the commercial side, I know you talked about scaling and the importance of that. As you kind of do your work and evaluate the manufacturing process, what are you finding to be the biggest bottlenecks, if any, and how are you sort of addressing those?
Today, a lot of our work really has to do with getting the aircraft through the certification process. And we got through the third phase of certification, which was a big deal because completing all that really unlocked our ability to go through now the TIA process. When your means of compliance is not finished, that means you likely have existing issue papers, which are things that you are unwilling to agree to, and meaning things that you can't actively solve. So when we solved all of those and we were able to agree, it really unlocked our ability to keep moving through this process and ultimately get through TIA and certification. On the manufacturing front, a lot of the work that we're doing has to do with putting the processes in manufacturing, tools and equipment in place to allow us to scale. We have put in place, as we've been building out this first initial fleet of 8 to 10 aircraft, but ultimately building towards that 50 aircraft per year production capacity. So we've been working through the tooling to go do that. And really, it has to do with the timeline of type certification. So once we get through the certification side, we can really scale our production side. Of course, all this is just trying to balance the EIPP with our own certification flight test program with the Launch Edition program.
Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Your next question comes from the line of James Kirby from JP Morgan. James, your line is now open.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for the time. Maybe just following up with the previous questions. You mentioned you've been advancing your work in phase 4 for some time now. Do you mind just expanding on that in terms of what milestones are left, or what should we be looking for what remains for progress in that stage?
Sure, this is Benjamin. So as we talked about, we just completed phase 3 and we're deep into phase 4. And what this really means is we don't have any unsolvable technical challenges and we're deep into execution. So while this is not easy, the rules are in place and we've got our meetings of compliance done. So the next step is really in making sure that all of our certs, which are now materially in final form, working with the FAA in order to get through those administrative processes to get full approval.
Okay, that makes sense. I appreciate that. I guess for our second question, there was a House bill that was signed last month in Florida for vertiport network build out. Adam, maybe just your thoughts there in terms of the infrastructure build out needed to align with the EIPP. Is there more needed? How do you expect it to ramp up kind of over the next 3 years once the EIPP starts?
Yeah, the infrastructure is really going to be kind of a mix of public-private partnerships. So we've been working on the infrastructure side for several years now. And so domestically, we focused on a lot of what turned out to be the EIPP markets, New York, Florida, and then ultimately California. On the New York side, we worked with the Port Authority and then some of the private airports. On the Florida side, we've worked with Related, Hard Rock, and we're targeting from Miami all the way up to West Palm Beach. In California, Los Angeles has been our kind of central focus where we took control of the Hawthorne Airport. We partnered with SoFi Stadium, USC, and then a bunch of the major FBOs ahead of LA28. And so you're seeing really this nice mix of groups that are coming into place. As it relates directly to the EIPP, we're still really finalizing a lot of the details with the different cities, with the different specific routes. And so there's still more to come. But what it's really done is really opened up the level of interest. And we've now seen just a lot of folks that want to partner on this side. And so I think you'll start to see that expand. We've also done a lot of work with Beta and really talking through the charging infrastructure that is going to be necessary there. And so I think you'll see the industry come together, the different cities come together, and then public-private partnership come together to build all the infrastructure needed.
Got it. Thank you.
Your next question comes from the line of Austin Moeller from Canaccord Genuity. Austin, your line is now open.
Hi, good afternoon. So just my first question, can we talk about the restricted type certificate that was issued for the Midnight in the UAE? And what kind of flight tests can be performed under the restricted type certificate? And can that data be fed back to the FAA to facilitate certification in the US?
Yeah, thanks, Austin. So what we've been working on with the UAE has been transitioning Midnight into the restricted type certificate program. And this is just a difference from what we had been previously working on, which was called the type qualification. And the restricted type certification program is more of an internationally recognized pathway that would allow Midnight to begin limited commercial operations. We are still working through that. This will help us accelerate our launch edition program in the UAE and allow for early commercial operations in Abu Dhabi, which we work with Abu Dhabi Aviation to fulfill. But ultimately, what it does is gives us an ability to generate early revenue and early real-world flight experience.
Okay, and I was wondering if you could comment on the opportunity to help improve the airspace infrastructure with Palantir. Do you see that as providing software or hardware to, or specifically software to the FAA to deconflict airspace, or do you view it more as using eVTOLs as a vector to test these technologies before they're implemented on aircraft nationwide?
A lot of this is still new and being worked on, but from the Archer perspective, we've been working on the application layer, so actual software that would be used. And we think about this because there's sort of the flywheel that we need to create. We're not just building aircraft, we have to build aircraft that ultimately can scale. And because the air traffic control system is constrained, it will limit what we can do. So we want to participate in any way we can, even if it meant that we are ultimately not generating significant amounts of revenue. It's still really valuable in order to help the larger flywheel of the industry expand. That being said, we do have some very neat products that we've been working on that ultimately I do think will become adopted. and can generate significant revenue. So we've really focused more on the application layer versus a Palantir of the world is focusing more on the integration layer.
That's super helpful. I'll pass it back there. Thank you.
Your next question comes from the line of Savanthi Syth from Raymond James. Your line is now open.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I think this Edison's question, if I might follow up on, just curious, how many aircraft have you built with this kind of current configuration where you're doing, plan to do transition flights as well? And just kind of curious, as you launch the EIPP program and you're doing certification as well, like how many aircraft do you expect to need and to have built this year?
Thanks, Savi. So we have 2 aircraft that are flying today, and we're still working through that initial fleet of 8 to 10 aircraft. Those are going to be allotted across the CERT flight test program, EIPP, launch edition, as well as, we're putting in place the infrastructure to ramp production to up to 50 aircraft per year. So it's really a mix of the 2.
Got it. That's helpful. And just another follow-up on the defense side. I know you have some U.S. programs that you're going after. You also have some UK. I was curious if there's any pacing that we should consider between the US and UK programs.
Yeah, hey, Savi, this is Tom. But as you're aware, there's interest around the world for vehicles like we are developing now with Anduril. So there is an active program that the UK MOD is working through their kind of procurement process that we're competing for along with Anduril. So, can't talk about, any details there, but I think it just goes to show that the opportunity is massive. It's not just one country.
And I'll kind of follow up there as well, Savi. There's new capabilities that have become very clear that the global governments are interested in. And as we've identified those new opportunities, it has just become very clear that there is an aircraft that we can build that can meet that need, and it can leverage a lot of the tools, the systems, the supply chain that we've already put in place for the core Midnight aircraft, even though it's a new type of aircraft. That being said, we've taken the Anduril approach where we are building early ahead of these programs being announced, because by the time they get announced, we want to be in position to win them. And as we've gone down that path, what we're building has turned out to be pretty incredible. And that's why we've had a lot of confidence in that this product will become very interesting around the world. And so you'll have to wait and see what happens. I guess we'll all have to wait and see what happens, but we have the increased level of conviction that the aircraft that we're building is going to have global demand and become very interesting.
Appreciate the call. Thank you.
Your next question comes from the line of Amit Dayal from H.C. Wainwright & Co. Your line is now open.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and congrats on all the progress. Adam, one question on the burn for this year. How much of that is going towards, manufacturing preparedness?
Thanks, Amit. So let me just give the bigger picture here, and then I'll let Priya just provide some more specifics. So we are executing a multi-platform strategy across civil and defense. And in the defense side, it's a generational product. It's not something that's simply being hybridized. So that does take real investment. But the good news is that, we have already obviously invested in a world-class engineering team, infrastructure, testing assets, and we're deploying that across both of our platforms. But as our certainty has increased that we will win some of these defense contracts, it's given us the ability to go out there and spend more. So the good news is if we do win a defense contract, there will be dollars awarded, which will help offset the spend. If we don't win a defense contract, we will immediately cut the spend. So you'll likely see a few quarters of elevated spend followed by a potential to reduce that from current levels.
And just digging a little bit deeper, right, specific to the quarter as you talked about earlier, we're ramping spend in 2 core areas. Adam talked about our increased spending on the defense platform. And then on the other one, as you rightly highlighted, right, on the Midnight program, as we're advancing our commercialization efforts, we are increasing our spend in Midnight for the flight test expansion and ramping the production efforts ahead of the operations in EIPP and other launch markets. So again, we expect this elevated levels to be short-lived and then potentially come down thereafter.
Understood. Thank you for that, guys. And just follow up to that is there any certification activity going on for the manufacturing facilities that are in place so far?
Yes, there is. And so we've been working through the production certificate as well. And so we will, try to time that as well with our type certificate progress.
Got it. Thank you, guys. That's all I have. Appreciate it.
Your next question comes from the line of Chris Pierce from Needham. Your line is now open.
Oh, hey, just one big picture question and one kind of near-term question. I guess when I hear you guys talk about the defense opportunity, is there a world where in 3 to 5 years, Archer is primarily a defense company and the Midnight is sort of, back burner is not the right word, but it's something where you see an opportunity, you're winning, contracts, you're ramping your manufacturing there, and that's a large company and that's sort of a path? Or will you always sort of want to work on both these paths because of both opportunities?
Good question, Chris. From a big picture perspective, I think the opportunity for civil products is substantially larger than the opportunity for defense products because we're talking about, global use by the consumers. And so the analogy or sort of example I like to give is if you think about selling, a few dozen of aircraft in the top 1,000 markets, you can build or sell, over $100 billion worth of aircraft. And so that is a pretty, large number to think about. On the defense side, it will be more targeted and it will go to, U.S. allies for specific use cases. So I do think that the defense market will ultimately be smaller. That being said, the beauty of the defense market is you can start to deploy some of these aircraft, not going through the same type of FAA type certification process, which means it could be faster. And you can also start to use advanced materials and advanced processes that can ultimately lead to a better civil product. And so that's the flywheel that we are trying to create. We're trying to build amazing products that reinforce each other, that ultimately allow for a big market in both. But I do think it's the type of thing where we will be involved in both, but ultimately I think the civil products will be bigger.
Okay, and then more near term, going back to Savi's question, it sounds like you have the 2 aircraft now, working to build 8 more, but you need to keep a certain amount of aircraft, I'm assuming, in Northern California or in Hawthorne, I guess now. What should we expect for EIPP deployment? Should it be multiple aircraft per site, or will it be more likely 1 aircraft and maybe more likely flying VTOL cargo? Or what would be, disappointing? What would be, upside surprise? I just want to get a sense of where expectations should be.
So we are still in talks with the different EIPP markets and partners, and we're waiting to see the different cities and routes that ultimately come to fruition. But we are balancing our own certification process against the EIPP opportunity, against the launch edition opportunity. And so we are building to be able to support all 3 of those, but we're going to have to weigh those different opportunities. And as there's more clarity on it, we'll start to give you more detailed information.
Okay, thank you and good luck.
And now I would like to turn the call over to Adam for our retail questions. Adam, please go ahead.
So we received a question that I thought was a bit more personal that might relate to a lot more people. And it was, I'm a real person who doesn't have an apartment in New York, who won't be flying to his house in the Hamptons. So how will I be able to use Midnight? I think it's a great question, and I think it's an important one. So this product was not designed for the rich. It was designed for the masses. We are targeting use cases that are applicable to most people. So a typical example that we like to give is flying from city center to an airport. So I grew up in Tampa, Florida, and it took me an hour to get to the airport. But if you're able to fly over the water and fly 150 miles per hour in a straight line, that would be a real shortcut. If I was able to do that at a similar cost of rideshare, that would be an attractive alternative as just another normal guy growing up in Florida. So hopefully you can see yourself in a product like this and know it is made for everyone, and not just for the select few. And I'll turn it back to the operator.
Thank you very much. There are no further questions at this time. I would now like to turn it back to Adam for any closing remarks.
Thank you, everyone, for dialing in and listening to us. We'll talk to you next time.
This concludes today's call. Thank you for attending. You may now disconnect.
All right, we made it through.
Well, what do you
I
all?
hope to God that you can still hear the audio, because this is where normally we lose the audio when it's a big stream. Guys, there's nearly 500 people in there. Smash that like button if you liked the call. Guys, it's business as usual. I'm expecting us to pump on that. How are we feeling?
Well,
you go for it, Goat.
Okay. There's a few things that I wanted to note, mostly from Benjamin and Adam. Benjamin said we moved through the hover phase faster than any other company. We being Archer, of course. The transition flight will be in the second half of 2026, which is it's wonderful news to if you know a lot about aviation. If you think we're building birdhouses, it's not wonderful news, but this is aviation. We want it to take a while because we're going to be flying on these things. Us three, a lot of y'all in the chat, we're all going to be flying on these things. We want to make sure it's safe. So the second half of second half of 2026 is perfect for me. I have no problem. But then he said, we've been flying multiple aircraft multiple times a day.
Yeah, that was an odd one. Yeah, I'm like,
I've only ever seen one flight a day, so that tells me that they are flying off the radar a little bit. So when N704AX does transition, they will probably be the first to release it. I hate to say, but this is the important thing here. The only time constraint that Archer Aviation has right now is the 2028 Olympics. We have to be flying, doing air taxi by the 2028 Olympics. And this call pretty much just sets up, guys, we will be flying by the 2028 Olympics. So that's great. Adam goes on to say he's working on a fleet of 8 to 10 aircraft right now, working on to ramp up 50 aircraft or 250 aircraft per year. And Priya then doubled down and said, ramping production for the EIPP program. So we may see more than just 2 aircraft by the end of the year. What's y'all's thoughts?
Do you know what I really liked was, this is something I know they spoke about the hybrid aircraft being completely separate to Midnight, but I thought it would have a lot of Midnight's features on it. And I love how they said, and they said it in the shareholder letter as well, but they're building it towards the mission with first principles. Initially they did look at a version of Midnight and then trying to hybridize that. But the largest needs is what they're targeting now. So they've completely back constructed and they're now developing a clean sheet new aircraft with Anduril, and they're expecting contracts being signed later this year. I just think, like, I think it is such a slept-on opportunity, and I've been banging on it so much around the defense, and I think defense only got very popular lately with all this tension in Iran. But for near-term revenue, I just think it is a slept-on opportunity there. Yes, we heard that we're moving through to piloted testing for the second half, or piloted transition second half of this year. I seen some people are panicking in the chat. Guys, we're in May. Second half of this year ain't that far away, so don't be panicking. We were saying next quarter's call, if not the call after. So I don't know, like, I just think people are very quick to jump on the trigger. And I gotta say, we've the chat there. I feel like we have more Joby people in here than Archer. Love Archer, hate Archer, you're watching Archer. It's true, yeah, because the Joby, I can have a bet. In the Joby earnings call, we had all the Joby guys are the people that invest in both. And yes, we had a few of the diehard Archers in there that were firing shots. But I've never seen nothing like this. This is by far the worst one yet in the chat, where it's just banging on every 2 seconds. And this AI, that's the second time I've been hearing this AI people claiming AI at the start of the conference call. I presume it's pre-recorded, but what are you worried about it being pre-recorded? He was just reading off the shareholder letter. So I don't know what people are scared about. But is it just people are worried? Is it jealousy that we're starting to push through these milestones now, and we're building a multifaceted business? Dylan, what are your thoughts on the whole call?
Yeah, I thought it was calm. I thought it was pretty calm. Even with Adam talking in the beginning, like we said, whether they're prepared remarks, audio, I felt like if anything, Adam's been traveling around the world and this man caught like a throat bug. And we just kind of got to chalk it up to Adam, like still getting on this earnings call and be like, I'm going to do my best. Because this is kind of the most we've heard. Actually, I was wondering a little bit because usually it goes Adam, Tom, Priya, and then we kick it off to Q&As and such after that. So I was almost getting a little bit worried. I'm like, why am I not hearing from Tom? What's going on? I need, like that's the CTO. I need to hear from my guy. But then once it was to the Q&A, it was like, first one, I think it was, is like, let me let Tom step up and answer that question. Like I was saying before the call, I think we're going to hear from Benjamin. Benjamin stepped up and was answering, I think, at least 2 of the Q&A questions as well. So again, it seems like Benjamin might be leaning in more to that commercial side of use and kind of taking over that aspect of it. And then you're going to have Tom, who's going to keep working on validating and maturing out that Defense Midnight project. So just kind of going front of call to back to the call here. Just some stars I have. So again, on track to fly in the EIPP later this year. So I know that comes with a little bit of confusion or indecision right now on if they're going to be autonomous, CTOL, VTOL. But again, like you guys said, they're progressing through the VTOL envelope, and I'll touch a little bit more on that. LA 28 Summer Games still again being stamped. That phase 3 being closed and the first company to do so. So again, phase 3 is being closed. They were the first company to do so. Last call, it was the means of compliance reaching 100%, which they said they were the first eVTOL company to do, which again, on the last call from the competitor, that 3% was still open on their means of compliance. So the competitor was not able to close the means of compliance to 100% within that quarter that they were going after. So phase 3 completed. And one thing I'll jump ahead, which is important on that. And Benjamin was saying that they've completed phase 3, which shows that there's no unsolvable technical challenges. So again, this is all validating their aircraft so that they can take this forward for TIA testing, because there's no point to take an aircraft forward for TIA testing if you think that there's going to be unsolvable aspects of your aircraft that are going to need to be redesigned. Once again, you kind of say, we've had engineers on the call or on the stream before where 9 months ago you heard Joby talk and it was like pencils down. I don't think the pencils are down for Joby, but what Archer kind of continues to say is, like you said, that Liam, how they've deconstructed Midnight, building from the bottom up, taking the first principle approach in their build seems to be something that they've continued to validate their own performance through each generation of their aircraft. And then you started to hear also that in 3 to 5 years from now, there's going to be other variations of the Midnight aircraft that they're looking to bring out, which seem to more in like that commercial or like to sale market, as opposed to just leaning only into the defense side, where there would be alternate versions of the Midnight as well. Let's see here. So they took over again, just to highlight again what they did at Hawthorne. They took over ops at Hawthorne Airport, and then also spoke to modernizing that out. So continue to look out with that modernization that's going on there. Again, we're going to keep an eye on the CapEx spend. And it's going to be interesting with Archer at these share prices. One thing they've always loved to do is tout that they've had the largest cash balance sheet. So now they're falling number 2. So this was the first time in probably 6 to 7, if not more calls, that Archer wasn't able to say we have these the industry leading cash balance sheet. And that's something that Archer has always really enjoyed touting on their calls. So I don't see really a need to dilute this share price, especially with the cash on hand. But just kind of do look at the spend on the other companies and which Archer has in the bank, and maybe see if that's something towards the next earnings call that they may look to kind of overtake and be in that strongest cash position in the industry. as again, Adam in the past has said, if you have the cash, that lets the defense opportunities basically know that you, it brings more confidence to bringing a program of record onto it. Something that I did want to highlight before, but I forgot to, was bringing up Project Nix. So again, basically bridging in that the defense midnight is not only something that is being looked at by the US, but is still being looked at by the overseas allies as well. And I have found it interesting that there has not been any finalization on the Project Nix, as again, the 4 finalists were awarded back in March 20th, but it still seems like that program is still open to see who can validate and have that best loyal wingman. And then, because when we got to Tom on the Q&A, he was saying the clean sheet for the new aircraft, dual use mission. Oh, this was the thing. And he was really like, if you go back and listen to the tone, that's why I like to listen to the tone of the voice. So we can read the transcript all we want. And your transcript's going to say now pretty far along into the development. But if you go back and listen to what Tom said, he's like, we're pretty far along into the development of it. It's like he leaned up into it, you know, when he was talking about into the development of that. And then he said he's going to show the aircraft later this year. So we're not only talking about seeing a transition later this year. We're not only talking about seeing true flights within the EIPP. We're talking about seeing the defense aircraft later this year.
What about Adam saying about the products that they have for the ATC that they have not shown publicly yet that are very exciting?
Exactly. And do you hear how many years that they've been working on that? And again, this word, the ecosystem. And again, I'm not going to say I coined it, but again, it's like Archer's building an ecosystem. It's not just about, we're going to build an aircraft, send it off where. It's like there is a ecosystem, like kind of like how Uber, I would say, has an ecosystem. You know, you got the drivers, the riders, the maps, and then your ecosystem is then you build that out to Uber Eats. And like, again, I'm not saying Archer's going to have Archer Eats. That's not my point in this, but it's like you build out the ecosystem of what your company can do. And then let's see. So yeah, you got Benjamin adding to the complex points. Oh yeah, and he was saying that basically going through their piloted VTOL tests is advancing the complex test points and their software validation. And again, on the last call, the question that Benjamin came and talked on was basically saying that the software that they've integrated, like specifically the Archer software that they've integrated, has basically been able to had enabled them to reach that 100% means of compliance faster than anybody else. And that's basically what has helped propel Archer to continue to like mature the aircraft. So again, it's the software inside of Archer that's really exciting. To jump ahead really quick, because again, it's nice to hear the breakdown of what this new ATC system is all about. And again, Archer's talking about being the application layer of the software and Palantir being the integrator of the software. So it's like, even if you take Palantir out of the equation, and even on this call, it almost seemed like, yeah, maybe there's a chance that Palantir won't win the ATC system. But Adam, I believe it was Adam that spoke, he really wasn't shying away from the fact that, yeah, no, right. All right, thank you, Dax. Archer Eats, one day, man, we're going to get him. And, you know, so it's like, Adam wasn't shying away from the fact that, to me, if like ASI or something was to win this, it wasn't still Archer software that was going to be critical into implementing into the new ATC system and having that built out. And again, he's saying that we don't need the new ATC system for the next about 1 to 3 to 5 years. It's going to be basically at that 2030 mark, where that's going to be the inflection point in the ramp of the manufacturing and how many eVTOLs that we actually have to go ahead and get that out to the market. So smash the like for Archer Eats so we can get that drone business and we can get that extra stream of revenue.
Podcast, that has to be the thumbnail. Do you know, Uber Eats logo, but just Archer.
I like it. I like Archer podcast episode 11 featuring Archer Eats. Coming soon, coming Thursday. You know, it was interesting, and at one point I'm like, dude, I was listening to Austin's question, and I'm like, dude, did you not listen to Sabi on the last call? I'm like,
Dylan, you started something there.
Hey, you know, either I'm the prophet or the village idiot, you know, one of the two. So hopefully the first, not the latter. But when Austin asked this question, I'm like, dude, did you not listen to Sabi's question last quarter? That's exactly what she asked. She asked why there was a restricted type certificate in the UAE. So again, Adam just said that there's a restricted type certificate because it's going to give you more options for more optionality for the type of flights that you're able to take place, and the revenue that you're going to bring able to be brought in through the ATC. I was a little surprised a little bit that when Savi asked the question about how many aircraft do you have and how many you're going to have this year, because again, I want to be transparent about this, that they have 2 flying today. It's not a surprise. We know that. Again, if you're not tapped into Archer all the time, you may not know that. So that's a good thing to highlight on the call that they do have those 2 flying. But I really want to know a little bit more about these 8 to 10. Like, I feel like we used to hear that there was like 6 in final production, and now it's like we have the 8 to 10 in production. So I'm going to be greedy. I'm going to want more than what I was told. So would have loved to hear a little bit more about that. And almost done. Yeah, and then the UK defense, and basically, again, what they've been saying is they're beefing up their supply chain. So when we look at, again, that question that was asked to Joby on the bottlenecks, there was three different things that were brought up, and the supply chain was number one. So again, they're vertically integrated. They're going to have to build this all in-house, as opposed to Archer, who's going off the shelf, which seems like they're already either procuring or having in line, getting purchase orders set up to be able to have that supply chain readiness to go ahead and push forward. And then again, great, I've actually started to like this analyst the more and more I hear him talk, and that's Amit from H.C. Wainwright. And he asked a great question. He's like, what about the certification in the manufacturing facility? He's like, well, what are you guys doing with that? And I was almost ready for one of those, like, we're going to get around to it, or like, like one of those types of things. But again, to the earnings call and what they said, yes, we are working through the production certificate. So I think that's something to keep an eye on, as much that can be found on what's going on with the FAA. I'm sorry, not FAA, but just a general production certificate going on in that facility. And yeah, last one is just on the retail question. Again, it's always interesting to see what retail question they're gonna take. But I guess maybe now that I think about it twice, maybe it wasn't that bad of a retail question, because again, not everybody's gonna live in New York, not everybody's gonna live in Texas, not everybody's gonna live in California. So really, again, if I'm investing in Archer, what does this mean for me? How do if it's not in my city? And Adam said that this is a product made for everyone. So even though we have heard up until 2028, this is going to be VIP dignitaries and such. And it was actually interesting to hear that Adam leaned in almost to saying that commercial ops was a bigger revenue stream opportunity than defense. So he was almost saying that like defense was like that one-time payment on the books. But I feel like in the past, and I'm not saying that this doesn't mean that they don't think they're going to get a defense partnership, or that in the past they didn't think something would work with commercial, but it was interesting to hear him say and lean in on how much more revenue he thought the commercial ops could actually bring into the business.
I just want to bring this up. Tom, I said a big shout out my guy, Hey Hustle Bros, doing just slight fact check. Joby has shown stage 3 of FAA certification completed since Q4 2023. I'd have to look at that myself, because you're probably right. Well, I haven't looked at it.
I appreciate it. I think we're going to have to, I love you, Tom. I think we're going to have to fact check Benjamin Lyon on it. But much appreciation. But the thing with Joby, we need to figure out if they completed it back then, or if there is any open issue papers. Because that's a big thing that Archer has stamped, that they've been closing these industry-wide issue papers, like the 2105Gs and such like that. So yeah, I'll check on it for you, Tom. But I was just going off what Benjamin said. But good call out. I'll check on it.
The Nerd Dyke says Joby said something like 95 or 97% of stage 3. Dax Bear says transition as soon as 2 months from now. And that's the thing, second half of this year. I think everyone's expecting, we're 8-9 months away. We're already in May.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So it could be as soon as 2 months away. It could be as late as 7 months away. Put it that way. That'd be. Goat, I think you're muted. Hey, it's not just me that happens to.
And until he comes back, Tom, I just looked it up, and yeah, on Joby's it does say stage 3 certification plans, both by FAA and by Joby, sit at 100%. So again, I think that's where these calls bring up, and that's why it's good, and you got to listen to both, because right now we see on a Joby shareholder letter, which again, it's colored in bubble, but it does say 100%. We need to I think it's time to unpack what phase 3 is and how is Archer able to get on a call, basically stating that they're the only ones going through this completion, as we're seeing it put out on Joby shareholder letter, that again, is supposed to be true to fact as they're putting out to their investor base as well. So I'll deep dive that for you, Tom, or send me over anything, and we'll deep dive it together.
This is actually a good point. Osman says, what about the Belgrade expedition 2027? Feels like it's going to be a miss. And we haven't actually heard much about the Belgrade expedition at all, have we?
Why would it be a miss?
I think for that we're just the air taxi partner. I don't think the plan on that was ever to fly over there. But we should. I mean, I don't see a reason why we wouldn't be able to. I just think that we're probably going to have a few mock-ups there, and that should be because realistically, we're not going to have more than 5 aircraft at that time. So I think we just need to have the shell models. But you never know. Adam may surprise us.
Chicago Mechanic says, do you expect dilution this year? No. I still stick by what I said prior to the earnings call. Until we get over $8, I don't expect dilution to take place. And yes, I do believe dilution needs to take place prior to certification. Whether that happens this year, whether it happens next year. 1.8 billion in cash at the moment. So there's no rush to do it. But the more it whittles down, yeah, you'll start getting more and more pressure behind you. But no, there's no need to do it now. There's no need to do it at this silly time now when we're at, what, 662 after hours. We're 1.22% up. So anyone that's bashing Archer, put that
we have seen worse, definitely flash crash on earnings call and market digestion. And just really quick, and how do you say it again, Liam? Belgrade. So
I believe I'm saying that right.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a mix here. I think one is going to be a smoke signal for the 2028 Olympics. So it says that they're going to be the official eVTOL partner, and it says that Archer's Midnight Electric Air Taxi will be used to demonstrate urban air mobility. So I see that taking place. Fleet acquisition was rolling into that. Serbia has that option to purchase up to 25 Midnight aircraft. So again, that's going to be a whole, would they have that available? But that's, again, we're looking at over a year away now. And, if we can get 8 to 10 off the line this year, I think that's when, and again, if they're looking at 50, I was trying to do some quick math in my head, that breaks down to about the same number as Joby was projecting for 2027. So it says Serbia has an option to purchase up to 25 Midnight aircraft. I would not see 25 in the air over there, unless again they took the whole fleet and was like, we're shipping them over there for this expo, and then we're getting them out of town. But if they are flying in there, and actually before that, it'll be interesting to see what the flight will be at the California International Air Show. And then we'll get the Dubai Air Show after that. So there's going to be kind of those October, November seasonal air shows that, again, a year ago, these aircraft, both on the Joby and Archer side, were doing things the previous year they were not doing, could not do, and everybody said they would never do. So once we look forward to all those air shows and the air shows coming up in later 27, if they've already committed to flying in the EIPP and such like that, I would say there's a very high probability that they would be doing VTOL type transition flights at California, possibly over in Dubai, and then rolling those already into what we've seen for the EIPP. So hopefully Joby is kind of cracking that Waymo moment with the eVTOLs, and hopefully Archer can kind of keep breaking down that wall in the eVTOL moment, or breaking down that Waymo moment for the eVTOLs. So these just become kind of a thing of the regular, and you look up and see them fly.
There's a good one there by Anne. Did they say when the first EIPP flight will take place, whereabouts? So they said first piloted EIPP flights will take place in the second half of this year. And whereabouts? Did they say where the first is going to take place?
To me, Yeah, to me, I didn't hear him get very specific. So again, just in the sense of what I was hoping to hear on the call and did not hear, I would still love to hear. And again, maybe it's with the maturity of the aircraft, where we know that Beta has certain maturity in their aircraft. We know that Joby has the ability to put a pilot in the seat and transition at the moment. And then that way they're kind of able to lay out with their map, not just of the Electric Skies tour, but for the EIPP will be as well. So it will be interesting, I think, once we see, when we start nearing transition, do we start hearing more about what's going to be conducted in the States? Or does Archer want to prove that transition and just kind of put that to bed? And then they'll be talking with the administrations. But the one thing I've been kind of catching in on is, again, but it kind of can go both ways, because Joby and Beta have stated what they will be doing within the States. But it sounds like there's also the talk that, the States were chosen along with these aircraft partners, but really the designated routes and what these states are going to be authorizing or applying to have these aircraft do in the States still seems like that's under talks. So I would say probably look through this late spring, early summer, start to kind of get that smoothed out. And again, let's kind of see what general, I'm gonna call them industry leaders in within the eVTOL sectors and with the other aircraft are starting to do, so that we can see Archer kind of keeping pace with that. And then that way we can see if that's something they're really falling behind on, if it's a year from now and they're only operating in an eCTOL way versus having that piloted transition. But again, per guidance call, it looks like second half of the year, we will be getting that piloted transition. So we'll wait patiently.
There you go.
Jumping across, true, I've seen worse on after calls. That's why I think tomorrow will be great. Yeah, I believe tomorrow will be great. Do you know what, guys? Jump in, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. I'm about to do a giveaway in about, 2 minutes. You have to be subscribed. You have to hit the like button. And one thing, check that you have membership gifting turned on. I know a few of you guys last week only realized that last second when you didn't get a membership. So make sure membership gifting is turned on. Smash that like button, smash the subscribe, and yeah, it's going to be completely random. If you will get memberships. Did they mention anything about UAE deployment timeline? They didn't give a timeline. They did mention about Abu Dhabi and what their vision is in Abu Dhabi with early revenue and early public adoption. And it's going to be an international recognized. I forget how he worded it. Let me see. Where did I have it? I can't even see where.
I think Adam got himself in a little bit of a seesaw in opening up that launch edition program. Because again, once that was opened up, it was December of 24, where the administration was just changing over. So you didn't have that lean in from the FAA and the DOT. So really, if you were going to take these eVTOLs to market, you were having to go global. The global expansion was really the only way to get these eVTOLs off the ground, and the GCAA was having that lean in. So I do think Archer's a little bit in a tough spot right now, where they may have received some early initial cash payments. Nothing record breaking, nothing I don't think they could probably pay back and not really have any much of a sense to the overall balance, overall cash balance that they hold. But I do think they are in this position where they just don't know where to commit their aircraft to. And again, I think it's on both regulator and conflict side, where again, I don't think Adam necessarily wants to say, hey, I'm going to ship 6 of these over to the UAE, be ready for Q3 rollout. One, if the aircraft aren't going to be ready for that, and or if the conflict's there. But to me, it seems like once the US had that lean in, the executive order started taking place, it seemed to me that Adam may have been shifting his business focus a little bit more over to the US and seeing what can he do to kind of appease this administration, so that again he can lean in, possibly get those programs of records awarded, and any general FAA budget funding, continue to get that going. Because if they're just sending these over to UAE, there's no point to send $20 billion down to get a new ATC system if these aren't going to be on US soil either, though.
What have we got here? PH says, a bit late. to this? Is it bad? No. You've that chat trying to manipulate things, and this is how I get so confused. Because I'd be reading the chat and I'd be trying to listen to you guys, and I'm like, what is happening? And then I just go off on a sidetrack reading the chat sometimes. It's funny. It's funny when you read the chat. I appreciate it. Anyone that comments. I do appreciate it. Look, whether it's positive or negative, it pushes us out in the algorithm. So it doesn't bother me if you're bashing us. But yeah, it is what it is. No, it's good, my guy. There's nothing out of the ordinary, business as usual. It's as expected. We're expecting transition the end of this year, or second half of this year, we'll say. Look, I don't know what people are bashing about Archer. There's nothing more negative that we didn't know yesterday.
Yeah,
I don't know what people are pulling on, but look, it is what it is. At Liam, anything about Q Day? Is that a real thing? It sounds scary. Oh, you asked something about some Q Day thing. Mate, will you be able to send that question back in, just because I am inundated with comments right now? If you can send it back in, I'll get that answer for you. I thought they had 90 days to fly in the EIPP program, but if they had done the transition yet, they'll need to move on, expecting to do it second half of this year. Still quite non-committal. Do you know what, Anne? If you look at Joby's earnings, and when you heard Joe Ben speak about the signing of contracts under the EIPP, I took away from that really the FAA and the Department of Transportation haven't really a clue what's happening themselves. That's not Joby's fault. So I wouldn't look too much into the 90 days, to be honest. What are your thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I would say kind of in agreement. I mean, I would say this is the first time on the earnings call on both of them. The analysts have leaned into the 3-year threshold inside of the EIPP, and both companies stated that they would be doing flights inside of the EIPP. So, yeah, I think right now, again, you got Archer saying that they've basically been moving through their VTOL test envelope faster than just about any other aircraft or aircraft maker at that time. So, to me, no concern. I think it's easy to always want more earlier and have want more to come earlier and all that good stuff. But two separate businesses started at different times, and they pivoted to midnight. And I think in the short time they pivoted to midnight, they have a VTOL that they're testing flight on, and a defense midnight that again we should be seeing at the back half of this year too. So. Again, I don't think it's necessarily just like pushing us to the next earnings call. But again, this was Q1 for each company. Although there's, certain expectations or guidance set around these Q1 calls, I think, again, it's really going to be, and again, we're going to see all this in the summer. Again, when we stay on top of this, we're going to know most about what's going on in the Q2 and Q3 earnings call. But that's why we tune in to make sure that, one, the company's guidance is still being set to where it is, and to see if anything that they're learning through this EIPP and the rollout of that is going to speed up any timelines that they can go ahead and hit the gas on that manufacturing and scale out to the 50 a year as well.
Bagel Holden says it doesn't seem like the chat is very negative. No, it's not negative. It's in like there's no one being nasty, I don't believe, to anyone else. Like, no, people are firing shots at Adam, but I can't. I'm not here to protect Adam. That's why I'm letting the chat run. Like, I don't agree with everything that's said, but like, people are welcome to say it. As long as it doesn't get nasty, I really don't care. People can argue back and forward. I just ain't getting involved in it because I'm just laughing at some of it. Yeah. And guys, anyone that is like put in a really negative comment, it's not that I'm trying to block off your point of view. If I wanted to do that, I could delete your comment. All I'm doing is I'm letting you guys argue between yourselves. lot of it is noise. It doesn't need to be on the screen. Like, I'm not gonna lie. There was one nice scene there. Why is Adam using an AI voice? Like, everyone keeps saying that at the start of like, Adam is only hurting himself for the constant overuse of AI voice technology. What is that to do with anything?
I mean, I'm AI, so I mean, who cares? Yeah.
Dylan, remember when I first started this channel when everyone kept accusing me of being AI? What?
But again, you know, I will be seen, but I think Adam, man, I think he's just flying across the world, catching this virus, that virus, trying to, you know, sleep on planes and,
Yeah, that's a good
you know,
point.
still have a family and all that stuff. So just keep in mind, these are people that aren't home with their families tonight. You know, these are people that are literally hosting an earnings call, not just for us, for their company, for institutional investors, of course. But, you know, are literally, you know, they IPO for a reason, not just to grab cash, but so they can get on these calls, give us this guidance and this update on where they're at in their build. And really proud for what Adam and the team has done, and continuing to mature the Midnight aircraft. Because I mean, think 6 months ago, we could be sitting here being like, oh, we're still going back between which rotor we're deciding on. The 2-blade doesn't work. The 4-blade doesn't work. Our aircraft's too heavy. We can't do this. That's not what's going on. We're pushing through the VTOL test envelope, and we're going to see a lot of things per this guidance call on the second half of the year.
Tom I said, he says, not asking about transition or even pilot, is just trying. Oh, I must have you put something else. Dylan, how's Archer perform wing-borne flight with a 4-blade rear rotor configuration? From the video that dropped today, it appears that the CTOL flights are still being done with a 2-blade. So that's 703X who's doing the horizontal flight at the moment. But I don't believe 704X is conventional takeoff and land, has it?
I would say there would be no way for us in the sense of video. The only thing we would know is that little bit of yaw footage that was put out by Archer, and the telemetry we've been checking. We do check for the altitudes and above sea level, although the ADS-B can't always be like a 1-for-1 in the sense of maybe go, you know, way to say it, like it's kind of fed in.
It's not really accurate, and
minus 400 feet or something. Remember that?
Yeah, it'll say like 75 feet below sea level when Stellantis Airport is like 100 feet above sea level.
Yeah, so unless they're like in the boring tunnel, like doing test flights under the tunnel or something like that. But no, Tom, I'll be honest with you,
the boring company,
the boring tunnel.
Hey, you know, either the profit or the village idiot, you know. So and that's how they ship it, you know. But no, and again, they've already. Adams basically stated that 2-blade, 3-blade, 4-blade, 17 blades. It's all validated. It's just how many props do you want to put out on your wings? How expanded out do you want basically the wingspan of your aircraft to be? And then just playing into the specs. So, but really, I'm gonna be honest. CTOL in CTOL N703. I mean, it's performing with light MRO, and N704X is still getting picked up. So I'm just going to sit tight and wait for transition.
I hope Anne gets a membership today, because I know it was Anne that forgot to have her memberships turned on. And make sure that's turned on, because I'm about to do the giveaway. Nice. Joby said they're now in different stages of building out their 9th S4 aircraft. How many aircraft did Archer say they're in the process of building? As they said, a dozen or so prior earnings. So it was 8 to 10 they're aiming at, aren't they? With ramp up to 50 per year.
I think hold on, I got that in my notes.
Yeah, 8 to 10.
So 8 to 10. Working on a fleet of 8 to 10 aircraft, then they'll be ramping up to 50 aircraft per year. That's what was said.
So what I'm curious is both for Joby and Archer, if maybe January or so is maybe that time. Again, I hate setting the goalposts and such, but maybe it's something as a timeline we kind of look at for, again, the tooling. Like, again, you can't build these aircraft unless there's enough inside these factories to build it. Factory certifications, like Amit had brought up on the call as well. So, you know, I think we look at that and then being able to see, you know, is Joby really producing for a month when it comes to January next year? And then for Archer to get to 50 a year, unless they can do 10 a month, and that's not starting until like July of next year, that would be a completely different story.
Yeah.
But again, at the cadence, that would be about 4 to 5 a month if they were able to start that in January. But and even on the last call, so again, go back 3-6 months on these call, they were validating Midnight's VTOL transition to take that through TIA testing starting this year. So look to see that TIA starting this year.
Tom has a good point here. This will come prior to transition flights, I would assume. And I think we've spoken about that between ourselves. I don't know if we've ever said it live, but between ourselves, we've always said before transition, we'd expect a CTOL campaign. We don't know how big it'll be, but a CTOL campaign with 704AX. I can't imagine them going straight for a transition, not knowing it can go into wing-borne flight. But
you two man that can do both. That's what that's all about.
Liam, my second favorite culture. So does Archer have a skunk? Works. Rody, your second favorite culture. Who's your first? Let me know.
I got no what's a culture, man. I got
like an old farmer, like an old like.
Okay. All right.
I think I'm the first then because I'm a goat farmer.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is that accurate? Let me know.
Let them know.
Right, guys, I'm about to do the giveaway. Guys, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you smash the like button.
I want that membership.
We'll get it.
Let me keep talking between yourselves while I get this going.
So go. After this, are you more excited on VTOL transition flight second half of the year, or seeing that defense midnight peeled back and having that showcased to us, even in the sense of like a expo form or something like that? You know what I mean? But yeah, seeing that.
I love hearing more about the defense. Y'all know I'm a huge defense guy as far as Archer. I wish Adam wouldn't have said that civilian use uses more or makes more money for the company. But I understand why he said that, and I agree with him. It probably does, but defense is just cool. As far as the best thing, let's see. What was my favorite thing? I just had it in my head. You know, it's one of those things where you have it in your head and it just disappears.
Well, and what's go for it.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, no. All I was going to say was, it's interesting too, because, you look at the program of records, which can be in the billions of dollars, which could come through. But again, I think Adam's real vision here is, again, he doesn't need to flood out 1 or 2 cities with 1,000 midnight. That's not really his end game here. He wants to take that thousandth biggest city, get them 3, 5, 7 midnight, but continue that for the 990th, the 998th biggest city, and keep going down. So again, when you start to have that $5 million sales clip, and again, these are 2 different businesses. Can Joby have a more lucrative commercial business than they could on a program of record? I don't know. They got to work the unit numbers out. Now, Archer, go for it. Because I was going to say is Archer their sale of aircraft, so that's straight metrics.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the difference between Joby and Archer. I also wanted to point out that Jobin on his recent interview said that he
shout out Wolf Rider.
Nice.
All right. He was going to, or he was expecting 1,000 aircraft per major city, and that Joby was going to run the operations, do all the maintenance and everything. Archer's not planning on scaling that big. Archer doesn't believe that Joby can even achieve that. Adam said in an interview, I think it was his interview with Molly O'Shea, where he does not believe that Joby's going to be able to operate their own system and that they're going to end up selling out. But we'll see. I mean, Blade works pretty well. Archer works pretty well so far. The only thing that we got to do is get that N704AX on a transition flight, but we also need to be patient and wait for that, So that's where we're at right now. I think this was a very, very good earnings call. There's nothing really bombshell, jaw dropping about it. But as far as the technical and financial analysis of the call, I think it was very well done. I'm very happy.
Nice.
Right. So Old Head Ted got a membership. CKC got a membership. Just a Peak and Duck got a membership.
Nice.
Blaine Kilburn got a membership, and Crypto Viking. Then we also had in the middle of that, Wolf Rider upgraded their membership.
Shout out to big shout out.
Give a shout out to Neo again for that $4.99 they all come up to give.
Big shout out, Neo. Yeah, Neo's been around a long time, long time community member. So you know, it's really cool. And again, I'm always gonna be the person that touts. And Tom, I'll call you out right here. Like, I know Tom sits on the other side of the fence on maybe his favorite eVTOL company versus my, like, quote unquote favorite eVTOL company. But you know, I think whether we're talking here or even in like other streamer chats, you know, it's always like when I see Tom there, I always want to give him a what's up. And you know, it's always again that friendly back and forth. As I think not only us, you know, Gold and Liam, you know, the community, it's like we're really trying to figure out what these companies are doing and their mission behind it. So just big shout out, Tom. You know, and we'll keep diving into the phase 3 and why Archer was touting that, as you know, Joby has that on the shareholder too. So big shout out, Tom.
Todd says, what about the stations to go to and from, Liam? I think I'm missing something here. I can't remember what.
Vertiports, maybe.
Are we talking about the vertiport infrastructure? If you could rephrase the question, I can jump back and we can speak about it. If it's about the vertiports, did you hear what Adam said? How it'll be a mix of private, public partnerships with the vertiports?
And shout out Beta.
Yeah.
Beta.
Did y'all see? I don't know if y'all are watching, but Beta stock actually got a jump just on him mentioning Beta.
Did it really?
Yeah, it did.
I'm telling you, there's an ecosystem there too, man. Falcon Aviation, Signature Aviation, JetX. Like, again, we got to stay tapped into this whole ecosystem of everything being built out. And again, that's going to let us know if this is coming to fruition. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate you too, Tom. Absolutely, my man.
Definition of a culture is anyone from outside the M50. Anyone outside Dublin, basically.
I was gonna say hands up again. I was like, I'll be in dark.
Y'all got a whole special way of talking that I don't understand. So we're learning.
I'll tell a quick embarrassing.
Big shout out. Look, Mac, another one of the boys where Mac can have a back and forward with us, and I can appreciate Mac's back and forward because it never gets personal. So big shout out, my guy.
And
what's up, Mac?
It took about a year for my wife. She leaned into me one day and she was like, so these eVTOLs. So she basically assumed that these were like toll booths for EV cars. And I'm saying, I've been doing this for like a year. I've been talking to her about Archer and Joby for a year. And I was like coming half out of sleep. I'm like, did you really just say like, think we've been investing in tolls for airplanes? And I'm just
toll
like,
booths to 100.
Yeah, toll booths 200. So
imagine a podcast and getting excited about a toll booth, man.
That's right. She thought we were the toll booth podcast, man. So yeah. So the eVTOL, electric vertical.
Anyway, we had toll booth, bro.
There you go. Maybe we tap into the toll booth lanes of the sky, you know, and look at those proxy plays, you know. But it will be interesting. Again, as the software rolls out, and like you were saying, Liam, too, whether they're going to integrate into like an Uber app, or again, if Archer's not the one. So like, let's say Elevate OS or Uber is more partnered with Joby, you know, and like, let's just say there was some exclusivity agreement in there where they couldn't partner with like one of the other like major aircraft builders, something like that. But basically my roundabout point here is if you have these private networks like a JetX or something like that, you know, could you have JetX basically book in with Uber, have Uber be that last mile for JetX, but JetX can pair you with the eVTOL that's looking to get you from place to place. So kind of exciting to see how that booking infrastructure, ecosystem, all that kind of stuff comes into play. So, you know, I think that we're going to see a lot through these next 3 months as really the summer will start to kick off the EIPP. which will show, if it's not with Archer, it's going to show what's going on with these other companies that are flying. And again, I'm going to take that lane for this whole year, where anything that any eVTOL company that's doing is positive for the whole sector and industry. And you saw that whether it was shorts closing in the whole market the day after Joby's call, but again, and then I'm gonna get right to this. And then you saw Joby's call able to also have that bump for the other eVTOLs the next day. But yeah, investing in the Sky Sports and infrastructure. There's actually somebody we need to get on. We'll get somebody on who has been doing some long research, possible investment, all that good stuff into the vertiport build out. So we'll get them on. We'll get them for you.
Love it. Max says, still very unimpressed and skeptical. Let's see how this holds after digested tomorrow. We're 1.83% up after hours. As I said prior to the call, unless you get a immense, I don't know, 10% sell-off or a 10% jump, you don't actually know where this is going. Like this 2.23% after hours here now, 2.38. Like it swings and roundabouts. We could go into tomorrow red. We could go into tomorrow. Look at Joby flew up. Now, guys, for the record, before anyone says Liam's saying that we're going to jump 20% tomorrow, we're not going to jump 20%. I don't believe so. I'll be happy if we do, but I don't believe we will. No, we could remain flat. We could go red, but I'm happy with my investment. So at the same
Either
time,
way, and anybody that's been watching this video for now 2 hours and 50 minutes will agree with this statement. I don't care if Archer's red tomorrow. I don't care if they're red next week. I care where Archer Aviation is in about 2030. Okay, so in 2030, you're gonna have Archer planes flying right beside Joby planes. All this he said, she said. N708, gosh, what the heck? N704AX hasn't flown this first half of the year. Who the heck cares when it's 2030 and we're all millionaires? That's all I'm saying.
And I know it won't always go like this, but from the bottom of my heart, I swear to you, I want both of these equity prices and market caps literally to climb in tandem. I don't want to end up having an Uber and a Lyft, where if you invest in the Uber, you're probably pretty happy right now. If you invest in the Lyft, you're probably not as happy as if you invested in the Uber. I'll take these things riding 30 to 35, 40 to 45. Like that's my dream scenario, where just like Go said, you got them flying in the skies together. Let's keep a growth multiple going on both of them. And let's hit, Archer do 100, Joby do 100. And maybe that won't happen. Maybe one will be 30. Maybe one will be 120. I don't know. But really for the whole eVTOL sector investors, I want everybody to have large percentage gains regardless of the company you're in.
I agree. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Old head Ted. I can't put that comment on the screen. You'll know why. But it ain't no fun that we can't talk today. And same with Mac. Glad it didn't debate completely. Sorry, Mac, can't put that up on screen. But no, do you know what? It's nice coming out of an Archer call and it looking up. Again, I said it earlier on. You need to go through the bad times to appreciate the good times when it comes to Archer Aviation. I feel like the good times are around the corner now. They're building a multifaceted business, and this is not going to be quick. When I initially started investing in eVTOLs, did I expect 3 years later, 2.5 years later, to be still sitting there talking about certification? No. The more I learn about it every day, do I understand it anymore? No.
Sometimes. Right.
But I don't know. The more we do learn about the industry, you can see it finally starting to tick along. I feel like there about a year ago, I felt like we were stuck in the mud a bit. We didn't really understand certification enough, and we just thought like certification is going to be around the corner any day now. And I think we've more or less accepted like 2028 certification. Maybe like I'm not putting the fact out that we may see certification after an EIPP program.
It
Is
almost
that
kind of makes sense that way. Almost, it almost is like a way to, again, there's probably a very strict FAA structure through issue papers, test pilots in the sim, to test pilots in the actual aircraft, validating the aircraft, the performance, the safety, and such like that. But no, just like you say, Liam, it's like, what better way to prove out your technology than to have an executive order, which has opened up the airspace for you to prove out your experimental aircraft technology, and for you to take a flight and fly it around the Golden Gate Bridge, to take a flight to fly it around the Statue of Liberty. And I wouldn't be surprised if Archer mirrors a decent amount of those type of flights, or the cadence of flights, once they have their piloted transition going. And, and again, maybe the stock price will react positively. Maybe it won't. Because again, we've seen a lot of catalysts for Archer. I think GOAT could probably count 11, if not 12 to 13, 14 now, that it happened since Q3, that you would think just would be step ladder climbs up. But again, you have the ability to have people with big pockets who can put short positions on the it's not 2020 30 yet. But we're creeping there.
I genuinely thought you meant
okay. Because we're gonna have a lot of years to go until
okay.
the 20,000.
I genuinely thought you meant that, and that was outrageous.
200,000.
I don't think I'll be around.
AG might have to pass the baton. But yeah, no, man, it's exciting times. Like I said, think of yourself sometimes as an early seed investor to a startup. These are publicly traded on the stock exchange, so we're gonna get these quarterly calls. You might get more information than you would than if you were Class B, Class C investor into. And I'm always gonna use Figure as the example. And again, like who started Figure? Who is Figure? It's Brad Adcock. Where was Brad Adcock? He was with Archer Maker. And so he split off, and again, to whatever reasons he had, and he went to the humanoids. But if those are already helping on the BMW factory, what could I see as a possible future for Figure as well as Archer, bringing those humanoids into the Georgia factory and getting those going? So almost having that symbiotic relationship with Brett and Adam that can continue to mature out. And I called on another one where basically, and I repeated this, I think on EVTOL Live at the Archer podcast, where you kind of need to have either that Henry Ford or that Henry Ford moment inside of these aircraft, where you're going to have that FAA approval, but then you're going to have that assembly line of manufacturing, where again, it's just going to be cranking these things out 1, 3, 5 a day, however fast the cadence they can get those going. And once these are getting put out, again, that's where I'm going to be so excited to compare the quarter over quarter numbers, where they get on the call and it's like, we produced 25 midnight last quarter. We've had a 45% increase quarter over quarter in the production of midnights that we've had. So again, at the beginning, the percentages might show a less of a bump of actual aircraft. So again, if you go from 10 to 20, that's 100%. So it's going to sound really good on paper. But even if we go from 60 to 100, being that like a 40% increase or so, I mean, we still now upped it from 60 aircraft to 100 aircraft. So it's almost like one of those weird things where at the beginning I want the percentage quarter over quarter to be high, but then again, let's let the numbers speak for themselves, and then let the revenue come in.
IVW says, all in good fun with where we were around 2 months ago, and that is it. Look, we can have these back and forths now, and it's actually funny. Do you know, it was painful when we were all sitting down watching our money get blown away, but no, I get what you mean there. First transition in late 2026 destroys the Olympics timeline. I don't think it does. Everyone needs to remember that if you're watching this today, you are a very early investor in any of the eVTOLs. If the industry takes off like we're expecting, a share price under $10 is cool. And that is the wisest word that have been said today.
Good call. Good call.
I love that.
Nice job, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. These end up going to $20. That's your 2x. So I know we want it to 100. I know we want it to 1,000. But even having incremental $12.50, $15, and $20 by 2028, you've literally probably beat an S&P estimate. And this is a high growth beta stock, and we do want to see it trajectory go up. So,
from first transition to full FAA cert will be years. Pilot transition with 4 passengers is my goal line. Anything before that is just fluff. Guys, I think this has been a cracking earnings call. If you love the two guys, you're going to love the next thing, because the two guys have YouTube channels. They have GoatGains and Stock Dylan. If you're watching this video after I release it, you'll see them down the bottom corner. You'll be able to smash the subscribe there. We need Dylan over. Are you over 50 yet?
Let's give it a check. Let's live check in.
Dylan over 50, because once Dylan's over 50, we can do a joint stream where all 3 of us stream it together.
I appreciate the one person that jumped out of the stream and subscribed. I went up 1. So to whoever you were, my man or my lady, thanks for getting me the 46. So we're gonna work our way there. We're gonna work our way there.
People, I beg you, 4 people. I ran this stream with no ads. I did not get paid for the stream. No, I'm lying to you there. Someone did send a super chat, and Wolf Rider did upgrade the membership. But apart from that, I did not get paid for the stream. So the least you can do is go to Stock Dylan, bang that subscribe, and once you're there, you may as well do it. Jump across to GoatGains, because he has an unbelievable podcast that he does do. Do I call it a podcast? Do I call it a video? It's a bit of both, isn't it?
Maybe
your mic is dead again, my guy.
A quick shameless plug before Goat jumps in and highlights.
Yeah.
If you're looking for me, Stock Dylan, you might want to put Archer or Joby. Just put Archer after it, because I've even had a hard time finding myself by just putting Stock Dylan in. So, but once he's big enough, or once the account's big enough, it will be easier to find. But big shout, thank you, Liam, for shouting that out.
Yeah, thank you, Liam. Absolutely.
Guys, anything exciting coming up on your channels over the next week?
I'll be doing I guess it's the rite of passage for an eVTOL YouTuber. You got to do a beach video. I'm at the beach right now, so I don't know what I'm going to talk about yet. I guess it'll be the Archer earnings call or something.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm going to walk on the beach and just record, and hopefully I don't walk into anybody. But yeah, that's my next video.
Unless you walk into Joe Ben or Adam G or something, you know what I mean?
You walk into me making my video.
You know, give them a what's up. You know, you bump into Liam. You know, y'all cross paths in the metaverse and the
yeah.
beach,
If I keep walking, eventually we'll bump into each other, right?
That's right. Just walk the coastline, and eventually the brothers are gonna connect back up. But no, that's you got an awesome Tuesday. Like Liam said, whether we deem it as a pod or a video, awesome Tuesday content you got, along with generally like daily content that's coming out as well. Big shout out to Liam. This man is creating not just the Hustle Brothers channel, but has some few other projects out there as well. So don't forget to subscribe to Liam's the brother. I'm so sorry.
Brothers on Tour.
Brothers on Tour. That's what I'm like. It's on the tip of my head, tip of my tongue. I'm like, so Brothers on Tour. Liam's been going down that route. So yeah, show Liam some love as he is
explores
broader minded than just only the eVTOL range. So yeah, big shout out to the guy.
Nah, do you know what, guys? It's been a cracker as always. Biggest Archer Aviation earnings there has been. We were the biggest Aviation earnings.
Thank you.
We're pushing the boundaries. I feel like it won't be long before this industry does take off. And no, it's a pleasure doing work with you guys. Guys, smash that like on the way out, and yeah, you need to jump across the two guys, bang the subscribe. Actually, jump into the comments, say hello to me there, and I might actually throw a membership your way. So jump into the two boys' comments, and we'll have a chat there. Right, guys, until then.
Peace.